In every console generation, there's only a select few games that can truly be labeled as the best. For the PS1, you can argue Crash Bandicoot. For the PS2, San Andreas. Even on the Xbox side, the defining game was Halo. But if you get to the PS3, only a few titles stand out as the greats. Uncharted 2, God of War 3, Infamous. All of them left their mark, but there was one game that didn't just define the PS3, it helped define gaming as a whole. Naughty Dog released a title that many would go on to call the greatest PS3 game of all time. And honestly, it might be. Only a handful of games get preserved across generations in a way that proves how important they really are. The Last of Us didn't just launch on the PS3. It was remastered for the PS4, then remade for the PS5. To really put that into perspective, as of 2026, this game is only 13 years old, and it has already gone through all those phases. It says a lot. It shows this wasn't just one of the best games of all time. It was one of the most timeless games of all time. Welcome to episode 12 of the Naughty Dog Takeover. Today, we're taking out bloaters in The Last of Us.
Okay, watch and learn.
Oh, I'm learning all right.
Ellie, stay up, come on! What? Is that it?
You asked for it.
To all my returning viewers, welcome back. And to all my new viewers, welcome to the channel. I'm the Retro Phantom. Digital Handshake, it's nice to meet you. Every weekend I talk about games that help define our lives. Right now, we're slowly coming to a close with the Naughty Dog Takeover. After today, we only have one video left in the main series, and that's Uncharted 4, A Thief's End next week. Then, later this year, for our end of the year special, we're looking at The Lost Legacy and The Last of Us Part 2. After the Naughty Dog Takeover, we'll be diving into the Street Fighter Takeover, looking at that series as a whole to get prepared for the upcoming film. So, if you want to join me for that ride, I urge you to hit that subscribe button because we still have a long way to go. If you end up enjoying this video, giving it a like is the best way to support the channel. And lastly, if you're feeling generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. The link is in the description. With that said, let's dive into this. Okay, now, if this is not your first Naughty Dog video, feel free to advance past this recap. If you're not caught up, feel free to check out the Naughty Dog playlist. I'll give you a moment to do that now. The 1990s were one of the most important periods in gaming history because this was the era of the console wars. At the time, Nintendo had entered an agreement with Sony to create a new console that would feature a disc drive. Everything seemed to be moving smoothly until Sony learned that Nintendo was planning to move forward with Philips instead. That decision angered Sony, and under the leadership of Norio Oga, the company decided to create its own console. That console would become the PlayStation, officially throwing Sony into the console war. But like every console manufacturer, Sony needed a mascot. Nintendo had Mario, Sega had Sonic. But Sony, they needed to find someone, and they would eventually find theirs through a small studio called Naughty Dog. That studio would create a mascot that not only helped define the original PlayStation, but also transform Naughty Dog from an independent studio into this AAA company. That mascot was Crash Bandicoot, the fun, energetic marsupial who ruled the late 90s with 3 classic games. It was a massive success for the studio, but by the early 2000s, Naughty Dog would lose the rights to Crash, and around that same time, the company made a major decision. They sold the studio to Sony because the cost of staying competitive as a AAA developer was becoming too much to handle. With that pressure eased, the studio shifted focus to the upcoming PlayStation 2. That is where Naughty Dog created Jak and Daxter: The Precursor Legacy, a colorful, adventurous platformer that many people called Naughty Dog's version of The Legend of Zelda. It had the same magic people loved from the 90s, but gaming itself at this time was changing. The kids of the 90s were becoming the teens in the 2000s, so when the sequel arrived, Naughty Dog leaned into that shift with Jak 2 and later Jak 3, giving the series a darker tone that appealed to an older audience. Behind the scenes, though, bigger changes were happening at Naughty Dog that would shape the studio for years to come. In 2004, Jason Rubin attended a gaming conference where he met a young aspiring developer named Neil Druckmann. After constantly pushing for an opportunity, Druckmann was eventually able to land a job at Naughty Dog as a programmer. His first game at the studio was Jak 3. That game would become an important turning point in Naughty Dog's history. While Druckmann was getting his feet wet at the company, Rubin was preparing to step down as president, with Evan Wells taking over. Around the same time, Jak 3 was being co-directed, with Rubin sharing directing duties alongside Amy Hennig. From there, Hennig would help lead Naughty Dog into the PlayStation 3 era with the Uncharted series. As studio entered the late 2000s, Hennig was building a foundation for what would become the Uncharted franchise, and Druckmann moved up within the company to help with the story. Alongside Bruce Straley, this creative team would stay together through both Uncharted Drake's Fortune and Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. But during the development of Uncharted 3, the studio started to shift. This was the first time Naughty Dog split itself into two separate teams. Amy Hennig became the sole writer and creative lead for Uncharted 3 as studio pushed to meet its deadline. The team went through an intense crunch to finish the game, and while Uncharted 3 became the swan song of the PS3 era for Nathan Drake, it was also the swan song of an older era of Naughty Dog itself, because around the corner was something completely different.
Decisions used to be easy, huh? What time to get up, what to wear, where to go. Now, it's a bit different. Could you tell friend from foe? Could you kill? Could you do worse? If a loved one was infected, could you do the right thing? Could you put your life on the line for me? The way I would for you. Could you be the last of us?
Now, we have a lot to cover because, for starters, you have to understand that The Last of Us as an idea started nearly 10 years before it ever even became a game. In many ways, this project was the child of Neil Druckmann. Back in 2003, Druckmann had already started sketching out ideas for a story about a man traveling across America with his surrogate daughter. Years later, Druckmann would even post these original sketches online, saying, "Cleaning out the garage today and stumbled on my original sketches from 2003 for a game pitch about a man, his surrogate daughter, and a trek across a broken America." As we move to 2004, while still a college student, a 24-year-old Druckmann participated in a group project that would end up becoming one of the earliest foundations of The Last of Us. One of his professors happened to be friends with George A. Romero, who many people consider the father of the modern zombie films. Because of that connection, the students were tasked with creating a game concept that would eventually be pitched directly to Romero himself. Whichever idea he liked the most would get turned into a prototype. Druckmann's concept combined with three of the biggest influences on him as a creator. He wanted the gameplay to resemble Ico, the main character to feel similar to John Hartigan from Sin City, and the world itself to be set during the zombie apocalypse of Night of the Living Dead. The concept focused on a police officer protecting a young girl in a world overrun by flesh-eating monsters. But there was one twist. The officer had a heart condition, which, whenever his heart started giving out, the player would temporarily take control of the girl, reversing the protector and protected roles. Ultimately, though, Romero picked a different project, and once again, Druckmann's concept was shelved before it could really become anything. Later that same year, Druckmann would join Naughty Dog as a programmer on Jak 3. While working at the studio, he decided to revisit the story again, but instead of turning it into a game, he tried the next best thing, turning it into a comic book called The Turning. This time, the story had changed once again. The police officer was replaced by a criminal who had lost his daughter. When he meets a young girl, he becomes her protector. By the end of the story, the roles reverse once more, with the girl saving his life after being captured by his former criminal partners.
And I was really hungry for just writing. And I remember those characters back from when I was a student, and I was really drawn to them. And I was like, okay, well, what's another way I can explore those characters? I can't do it as a programmer. What if I do a comic book? So I was like, okay, I kind of like scrapped a lot of the ideas and just kept that core concept of having this strong kind of guardian character and then this female character where the roles at some point would switch. And I really kind of liked that idea. So this was take 2. And I decided I was going to write it and draw it all myself in my spare time. It was called The Turning. And it was about now, like, I developed the characters a little bit more, and the dude was now a criminal who's lost his daughter, and in trying to protect this girl, he was trying to redeem his past, because in a lot of ways, his past was responsible for his daughter's death.
But just like before, this version would fail as well. In an article called The Power Failure, The Making of The Last of Us, it was stated, his plan was to both write and draw the comic in his spare time. He eventually completed the script for a 6-issue story arc and pitched it to an indie comic book publisher. But just like George Romero, the publisher wasn't into that idea. I like it, but I don't love it, Druckmann was told. It's ironic, looking back at all this, because the story keeps getting rejected over and over again, yet only a handful of people were eventually able to see the vision. Looking at the story overall, and understanding there is no direct correlation here, this is just my own perception. It almost feels like people were trying to push this story away before that ever had the chance to become something. And when you really think about it, parts of this concept will later show up in things like The Walking Dead from Telltale Games, where you had an older protective figure traveling with a young girl through the apocalypse. That series built a massive cult fan base around that relationship. So in another time, you could argue that The Last of Us could have been the original Walking Dead Telltale series. But it's just something I thought about. Let's continue. Druckmann would try once again to get his story made while at Naughty Dog, but this time the project was called Mankind. There was still a deadly virus in the story, but in this version the virus only affected women. That idea did not sit well with the staff at Naughty Dog, especially the women working there. In the same article, it was stated, an early version of Ellie was the only female who was immune, and Joel decided to protect her in order to bring her to a lab where a cure could potentially be created. But they weren't able to sell the idea, especially after several female Naughty Dog employees voiced their concerns. The reason it failed is because it was a misogynistic idea, says Druckmann. So, once again, the story was shelved, and Druckmann went back to work as a programmer while still quietly building the overall idea on the side. While at Naughty Dog, if you recall, Druckmann worked his way up the ladder. He started working on Jak 3 and later Jak X Combat Racing, before eventually moving up to work on Drake's Fortune due to technical issues during development. But while he was contributing on the programming side, he was becoming more involved on the story side as well. In 2008, Richard Lamarchin spoke on the writing process behind Uncharted and stated, in Naughty Dog's case, the writers of the story are members of the development team. Amy Hennig, the director of Uncharted Drake's Fortune, led the writing of the story with lots of help from game designer Neil Druckmann and lead cinematic animator Josh Shear. That quote is important because it shows that even before The Last of Us, Druckmann was already becoming a bigger part of Naughty Dog creatively. He was no longer just programming systems in the background. He was becoming one of the people helping shape the stories themselves. From here, Naughty Dog started to see that Neil Druckmann had real storytelling talent. He was helping the studio from 2 different angles, a programming and writing angle. That led to him getting an even bigger role on Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, where he had much more involvement in the development process. And as we know, the game is still regarded as one of the greatest games ever made. Because of the success of Uncharted 2, Naughty Dog made the decision to split the company into two teams. One studio would work on Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception, while the other would begin work on an entirely new project. Bruce Straley was chosen as director while Druckmann became the lead game designer. But understand, the game that they were originally working on was not The Last of Us, at least not yet. The first idea was actually a brand new Jak and Daxter project. And inside the story of The Last of Us, direct from Naughty Dog, it was stated, "We felt like we had something really special in our hands, but even before that game came out, our bosses started thinking of like, well, we've grown over Uncharted 1 and 2. Maybe it's time to try the two-team thing again. And you have no idea how difficult it is to create a new IP. It's like you're starting from scratch. You have no idea what's going to work insofar as the story or characters or gameplay. Do you go first person? Do you choose to go third person?" So to make our lives easier and to say, okay, we're going to branch off and start this whole team. Let's start with an established IP. Let's not give ourselves too many challenges at once. And we were given the task of rebooting Jak and Daxter.
Back in 2009, our president, Evan Wells and Christoph Balestra, we had just shipped Uncharted 2, and it was pretty successful for us. And they decided, there's a lot of people on the team that were very talented, but eager to do other stuff, maybe above their role where they're at. So they're like, let's start branching out. Let's create this second team. So they put Bruce Straley, who was game director in Uncharted 2, and I on the second project. And our task was, and this is the first time we're showing this, to reboot this game, Jak and Daxter. And these are some of the concepts from that project. So we spent a long time kind of exploring the world of Jak and Daxter, and how would we reboot it? What would it mean to bring these characters back? What are some story ideas that we were getting excited by? Here's some more stuff. So number 2 is pretty cool, where you see them fishing. And as much as we like a lot of these concepts and kind of exploring this fantastical world, we found that the ideas we're passionate about were kind of getting away from what Jak and Daxter was, and we're questioning is like, are we doing this for marketing reason and naming something Jak and Daxter when it's not really Jak and Daxter? Or are we really passionate about it? And the answer was like, we felt it was more for marketing. And we just, again, we felt like we weren't doing service to what the fans of this franchise really liked, even if the reinvented Daxter is pretty damn good looking. So we went to our boss and said, do we have to do this? And he said, no. I thought it would just be easier for you guys if you started with something, but if you want to do something else, come up with something else. So we're like, awesome. And we left the office, and Bruce and I looked at each other and we're like, okay, now what do we do?
The reboot of Jak and Daxter was canceled, and all efforts shifted towards creating an entirely new IP from the ground up. This is where the full concept of The Last of Us finally started to come together. After nearly a decade of failed ideas, rejected pitches, and shelved concepts, Druckmann finally had the chance to make the story he's been trying to tell for years. Helping him with this story would be Bruce Straley, who made sure it wouldn't go off the deep end, and now how to properly appeal to audiences, removing the misogynistic traits, removing revenge storylines, and giving it a more valued structure. So basically, Bruce Straley was the one that really evened out Neil Druckmann's ideas. So, within 2 years, at the Spike Video Game Awards in 2011, the world will finally get its first look at The Last of Us.
okay?
Better than that guy.
Search him. I'll take care of his buddy and then we quit this place.
Bingo.
Ellie, come on. Go.
This is our routine. Day and night, all we do is survive. It never lets up. He tells me how these streets were crowded with people just going about their lives. Must have been nice.
For this game, Troy Baker was chosen to play Joel. You may recognize his voice from Tim Drake in Two-Face and Batman Arkham,
Really? That's not what it looked like from where I was standing.
or even the default male voice in Saints Row the Third.
We need to remember why we do what we do. And today the stakes are even higher.
Some people may even know him infamously from the Silent Hill HD collection version of James Sunderland in Silent Hill 2.
This town is full of monsters. How can you sit there and eat pizza?
The point is, Naughty Dog had someone with real experience behind the mic, and as an extra bonus, since Baker was from Dallas, there was a little more authenticity he could bring to Joel's southern personality. For Ellie, Naughty Dog chose Ashley Johnson, who you may recognize her as Tara from Teen Titans,
What? Haven't you guys ever seen a superhero before?
or my favorite, Gwen Tennyson from Ben 10 Alien Force.
Why haven't you asked me out?
What?
You heard me. We spend all of our time together, and you obviously like me.
These were already some major roles, but this game was about to change her career forever.
First came up with Ellie and Joel, we had this idea in our heads of who they would be, but we didn't necessarily know the voice.
It took us a while to find our Joel, but for Ellie, I think Ashley was the second or third candidate to walk in, and right away we knew.
Yeah, you know
Why
what?
are you so scared all of a sudden?
Because I'm a coward, okay? So just get your shit and let's get out of here.
Damn it. I'm not like her, you know.
What?
You think I'm gonna end up like your daughter?
The way she delivered the lines, the way she just embodied that character is like, that's Ellie, there's no question about it.
And I saw the character artwork and I related to her a lot. I mean, she's kind of a tomboy and she's kind of tough, and I mean, obviously I'm not 14, and I think that's the main difference between the two of us. I read the scenes and I was like, I need to play this part.
You wanna be my hero? Forget the whole bit about saving my life. Find me a stack of these bad boys instead.
Where'd you get that?
Back your bills. I mean, all this stuff was just lying around.
And then once we had her, we said, okay, we're gonna do another round, and we're gonna have Ashley this time in the casting sessions. The chemistry of these two characters was imperative to get right.
Troy was a really interesting casting for Joel because when you see Troy, he doesn't look like Joel at all.
You know, he's so handsome and he had like, you know, the frosty hair and totally looked like Final Fantasy. And so
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. He's like this tall, pretty, it didn't seem right.
I walked into the room fully aware that I was the youngest person that they were seeing for this role. There was a line that was in the audition side that says that Joel has few moral lines left to cross. And so that became the anchor point to the character.
But then as soon as he spoke and he had the grit in his voice,
Warm, yet kind of dangerous.
and his movement is just like, you bought into it.
Why are you so scared all of a sudden?
Because I'm a big coward, okay? Now pack up your shit and let's go.
Damn it. I'm not her, you know.
What?
You think I'm gonna end up like your daughter?
Lily, you are
treading on some very thin ice right now.
It was Ellie and Joel.
After he read, it was just like that was it.
I've done some video games in the past, but to be handed the mantle of a franchise like this was a pretty big honor.
Later in 2013, Naughty Dog came up with a phenomenal marketing idea to help get people more excited for the game. They decided to air a televised commercial during one of the biggest moments happening on television at the time. Keep in mind, in the early 2010s, zombies were huge again because of The Walking Dead. During the season 3 finale, while millions of people were already watching this massive zombie show, some viewers suddenly got a commercial for The Last of Us.
How is it that you're never scared?
Who says that I'm not?
What are you scared of?
Do I need to remind you what is out there?
Once upon a time, I had somebody that I cared about. And in this world, that sort of shit's good for one thing. Getting you killed.
I need something smuggled out of the city.
Jesus Christ.
Just cargo, Joel.
How do you know them?
I just want some simple gear enough to set me on my way.
I reckon it's got something to do with that girl.
It's got everything to do with that little girl.
Can't be any worse than in here. Can it?
God damn it! Fuck.
We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time.
No, we are survivors.
This is our chance.
It is over, Tess!
What are you so afraid of?
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
What do we do?
You make every shot count.
You see, I believe everything happens for a reason.
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
Perfection takes time, and because of that, the game was pushed back after its reveal at the Spike Video Games Awards in 2011, so Naughty Dog can go full throttle on development. And in a full circle moment, The Last of Us finally got its chance to become a comic book on April 2013, with The Last of Us American Dreams from Dark Horse Comics. I haven't read them myself, but one of these days I might have to, because it's crazy seeing how the idea kept getting rejected for many years and finally got to exist in a comic form after all. Regardless, The Last of Us was moving like a train with no brakes, and especially after Uncharted 3's success. So we get to June 14th, 2013, when exclusively for the PlayStation 3, The Last of Us was finally released to the world.
The theme to The Last of Us really came about, there was a little bit of story, a little bit of gameplay, but what really happened was kind of twofold. Neil Druckmann, the creative director, and myself, we went and saw No Country for Old Men, and we walked out of the theater kind of like eyes wide open and mouth agape, like, what did we just see? What was that? And when we can look at each other and say, like, what if you could make a game like that? What if you could make a game that had that kind of tension, yet those types of characters? And if you could marry those elements together, but with the controller in your hand, then it seems like there's something that I haven't played much of. And then when we saw the Planet Earth video, and David Attenborough so succinctly describes this Cordyceps fungus, which is the most fascinating sci-fi, weird thing that actually happens that you've ever seen, because when you actually watch this time-lapse photo of this ant that has this fungus growing out of it, and then it pops, and the spores spread out, and then it's going to contaminate the rest of the colony. It's such a wild thing to think that this exists. And that was a jumping off moment to say, like, well, what if? We started thinking, like, we could make something really special here.
We wanted the players to have to make some choices. We wanted to think about, in a world with limited supplies, and you ran into these things, what would you have to do? What would you really have to do in this situation?
What's gonna happen? Am I gonna meet a human, a band of humans? Are they gonna be good? Are they gonna be bad? Infected? What type of infected? How many? Do I have 2 bullets or 5? So in my limited tool set, you start seeing the parallels between story and game, and you start marrying, like, how do we get those character moments to show up in the gameplay, and how do we get the gameplay to propel character moments? That's the challenge. And it's caused a world of hurt and pain and struggle and anguish, and yet if you just push it, and both ends try to meet in the middle and try to find that beautiful symbiotic relationship between gameplay and story, you find something new and inventive and gets the player truly invested in the overall experience.
Making the systems for this game have proven to be hard, and that's exciting. That means that we're kind of exploring some new territory, and it means that we are trying something a little different, and we're trying something that we're kind of really interested in playing. And there's a lot of new systems in this game. You know, we've got the crafting, we've got new combat, we've got listen mode, we've got all these different things that are all going to combine to create this grounded universe, this one that is very lethal, very dangerous.
We built a prototype early on in development, and we had a very small team, so to try to capture the flavor of what we wanted the core combat to be. That idea of that tension and sort of scavenging and improvisational dynamic AI, we set up the previs, and it basically turned out to be the ambush sequence when you head into Pittsburgh.
We've created something where you are nervous, and that just like a little bit of sound around you is important and can get you startled.
So when we saw the combat in the previs and we started seeing an environment you could walk around with and started changing up some of the mechanics and adding like a crouch button, because we knew stealth was going to be an aspect, sneaking up and being quiet was going to start like filtering in, and then you could look at the previs and keep going back to it and saying like, okay, how do you do that?
This is a dangerous place to move through. They're setting off to do something scary. So you're going to get those deep, deep tones of uncertainty, of is this a good thing to even do? And you know, in true Naughty Dog fashion, we're going to explore a lot of ranges of the emotion of dealing with this post-pandemic world.
Here's a quick spoiler alert as I'm about to tell the story behind The Last of Us. And fair warning now, I'm using The Last of Us Part 1 as my main footage of the game, instead of using the remastered of the original PS3 version as my disc wasn't working. But if you're not a fan of spoilers, please advance this video to the gameplay overview section as seen on the timeline below. Let's dive into this. The story opens up on September 27, 2013 in Austin, Texas. Sarah Miller, a 12-year-old girl, is asleep on the couch. While she sleeps, her father Joel returns home while talking on the phone with his brother Tommy. Sarah wakes up as Joel turns on the light. After ending the call with Tommy, Joel sits beside her and asks why she's not gone to bed yet. Sarah hands him a small box containing his old watch, which had been broken but is now repaired. Joel asks how she managed to afford it, and Sarah jokingly says she sells hardcore drugs. Joel laughs and tells her she can help pay the mortgage now. Later that night, Sarah falls asleep on the couch and Joel carries her upstairs to bed. Hours later, she's awakened by the phone ringing beside her bed. On the other end is Tommy, panicked and asking for Joel. Before Sarah can answer, the line suddenly cuts out. Sarah gets out of bed and notices the birthday card she had written for Joel but forgot to give him. She then heads to Joel's room where a live TV report is playing. The news reporter is discussing the outbreak when suddenly an explosion erupts behind him, cutting the broadcast entirely. Sarah sees the orange glow of fire in the distance through the window. She heads downstairs as police cars speed through the streets outside. On the kitchen counter, Joel's phone is sitting there with multiple missed calls and text messages from Tommy, all telling him to call back immediately. There's a note on the fridge from Joel saying that he will be home late and that Sarah should order food for herself. As Sarah walks into the kitchen, Joel suddenly bursts through the sliding door. He slams it shut behind him and immediately asks if she's okay. He tells her to stay away from the doors because their neighbors, the Coopers, have gotten sick. Joel grabs his revolver as their neighbor crashes through the glass door. Joel warns him to stay back, but Jimmy keeps moving towards them, forcing Joel to shoot him. Moments later, Tommy arrives in his truck and the three of them flee the neighborhood. As they drive away, Joel and Tommy talk about how everyone seems to have lost their minds because of some kind of infection. As they pass Tommy's friend's farm, they see it burning in the distance. A little later, Tommy notices a family stranded on the side of the road with a child. He hesitates for a moment, but Joe tells him to keep driving. The family begs for help, but Joe refuses because he knows they cannot risk it. Eventually, they reach the main road, only to find it completely blocked. Police have roadblocks set up the bridge, helicopters are circling overhead, and traffic is not moving at all. Suddenly, a man steps out of a nearby car to complain, but before he can say much, someone rushes out the bushes and attacks him. Tommy quickly turns the truck around and drives back through the town. But as they go through the intersection, another vehicle crashes directly into them and flips Tommy's truck onto its side. Sarah wakes up and realizes her leg is hurt. She cannot walk, so Joel picks her up and carries her through the streets as chaos erupts all around them. People are screaming, cars are crashing, buildings are on fire, and infected people are attacking anyone they can find. The three eventually reach an alley, but an infected man suddenly attacks Joel. Tommy shoots him in the head and tells Joe to take Sarah and run for the highway while he buys time. Joel carries Sarah through the darkness towards the bridge while infected people close in behind them. Just before they can reach him, a soldier appears and shoots the infected dead. Joel begs the soldier for help, explaining that Sarah is hurt, but instead of helping, the soldier is ordered to stop them. And this is where the story gets dark.
Please don't.
Oh no.
Sarah. Move your hands, baby. I know, baby, I know. God. Listen to me, I know this hurts, baby. You're gonna be okay, baby. Stay with me. All right, I'm gonna pick you up. I know, baby, I know it hurts. Come on, baby, please. I know, baby, I know. Sarah. Baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Don't do this to me, baby. Come on. No. No. No, no, no. Please. Oh, God. Please. Please. Please don't. Please.
The scene concludes with the game's title and opening credits, as different news reports explain how the infected rapidly spread across the United States and eventually the rest of the world. The reports talk about the military response, with quarantine zones being created and martial law being enforced. Over time, a militia group known as the Fireflies emerged to resist the government, though their efforts had only limited success. We then hear of the leader of the Fireflies, Marlene, urging people to look for the light and believe in the Fireflies. The story then jumps ahead 20 years to 2033. At this point, civilization has been destroyed by the infection. In the United States, most civilians now live inside of heavily controlled quarantine zones operated by Fedra. Anyone living outside those zones is usually surviving alone, in small groups or in independent settlements. For many of those survivors have become hostile over time. Joe now lives inside the Boston quarantine zone, where he works as a smuggler. He makes a living moving people, weapons, and supplies through the walls of the city, and over the years, he's built a ruthless reputation for himself. Joel is awakened by Tess, his friend and business partner. Tess explains that she was attacked by the men of Robert, a local weapons dealer who owes them money. The two decide to track him down and confront him in his warehouse. As Joel and Tess head towards the checkpoint, Tess notices the ration line has not even opened yet, and yet people are already lined up because of how scarce supplies have become. Nearby, they witness 4 civilians being dragged out of a condemned building by soldiers in hazmat suits. Each person is scanned for infection. The first 2 civilians are clear, but the third tests positive. Despite begging for her life, she immediately is executed by injection. The 4th person tries to run, only to be shot dead by the soldiers. Joe and Tess eventually reach the checkpoint, but before they can pass through, a terrorist attack by the Fireflies destroys the military vehicle nearby. Because of the explosion, the army locks down the area and orders everyone off the streets. This forces Joel to take a different route through a series of tunnels and abandoned buildings outside the zone. As they move through ruined houses, they are forced to put on gas masks because of the infectious spores left behind by dead infected bodies. Inside the buildings, they discover a group of people who have been trying to sneak into the quarantine zone. Joel learns through a note behind that they had been there for a short time before the spores infected them. Most of them are already dead, but one man is still alive, trapped beneath rubble with a tear in his mask. Knowing he's going to turn, he begs Joel to kill him before it happens. Eventually, Joel and Tess make their way to the slums where Robert is hiding. Just like Joel predicted, Robert already knows they're coming and is terrified of them. They bribe their way through the area, walking past black market merchants and underground fights as they search for him. One man tries to offer Tess a bargain, but she ignores him. Another says hello to Tess, which immediately causes suspicion from his girlfriend standing nearby. Joel almost gets into a fight with one of the guards in the underground boxing match, but Tess steps in to tell the guard to sit down. The man immediately listens because he recognizes who Tess is. The pair eventually learn that Robert has returned to the wharf. Joe and Tess chase after him, fighting through his men as they move through a series of warehouses until they finally corner Robert.
Well, hello, Robert.
Tess, Joel. No hard feelings, right?
None at all.
All right. God damn it!
We missed you.
Look, whatever it is you heard, it ain't true, okay? I just want to
The
say...
guns. You want to tell us where the guns are?
Yeah, sure, but it's complicated. All right? Look, all right, just hear me out on this. I got... Fuck. Stop! Oh.
Quit your squirming. You were saying?
I sold them.
Excuse me.
I didn't have much of a choice. I owed someone.
You owed us. I'd say you bet on the wrong horse.
I just need more time. Just, give me a week.
You know, I might have done that if you hadn't tried to fucking kill me.
Come on, it won't
Who
like
has
that.
our guns?
I can't. Just give me a couple days.
Who has our guns?
It's the Fireflies. I owed the Fireflies.
What?
Look, they're basically all dead. We could just go in there, finish them off. We get the guns. What do you say? Come on. Yeah, fuck those Fireflies. Just go get them.
That is a stupid idea.
Well, now what?
We go get our merchandise back.
How?
I don't know. We explain it to them. Look, let's go find a Firefly.
You won't have to look very far.
There you go. Queen Firefly.
Why are you here?
Business. You weren't looking so hot.
Where's Robert? I needed him alive.
The guns he gave you, they weren't his to sell. I want them back.
Doesn't work like that, Tess.
The hell it doesn't.
I paid for those guns. You want them back? You're gonna have to earn them.
How many cards are we talking about?
I don't give a damn about ration cards. I need something smuggled out of the city. You do that, I'll give you your guns back, and then some.
How do I know you got them? Well, I hear the military's been wiping you guys out.
You're right about that. I'll show you the weapons.
Yes, sir.
I gotta move. What's it gonna be?
I want to see those guns.
Follow me.
The trio travels until they finally get back to Marlene's hideout, where they meet Ellie, and Marlene gives Tess and Joel one heck of a job.
Fuck away from
Hey! Let her go.
You're recruiting kind of young, aren't you?
She's not one of mine.
Oh, shit. What happened?
Don't worry, this is fixable. I got his help. But I can't come with you.
Well, then I'm staying.
Ellie, we won't get another shot at this.
We're smuggling her?
There's a crew of Fireflies that'll meet you at the Capitol building.
That's not exactly close.
You're capable. You hand her off, come back, the weapons are yours. Double what Robert sold me.
Speaking of which, where are they?
Back in our camp.
We're not smuggling shit until I see them.
You'll follow me. You can verify the weapons. I can get patched up. But she's not crossing to that part of town. I want Joel to watch over her.
Whoa, I don't think that's the
I'm not
best
going
Ellie.
with him. How do you know them?
I was close with his brother Tommy. Said if I was ever in a jam, I could rely on him.
Was that before or after he left your little militia group?
He left you too. He was a good man.
Look, just take her to the North Tunnel and wait for me there.
Jesus Christ.
Just cargo, Joel.
No more talking. You'll be fine. Now go with him.
Don't take long. And you, stay close. Let's go.
Joel and Ellie begin making their way towards a safe spot while Marlene and Tess finish their business. As they leave, Ellie notices dead bodies outside and realizes how many Fireflies have been wiped out. Understanding that Joel knows this world better than anyone else around her, she decides to stay close to him because she knows he is the professional here. The two make their way towards the North Tunnel, and along the way, Ellie starts asking Joel questions about what exactly he smuggles. Joel tries to learn more about who Ellie is, but she stays guarded and vague about her past, only mentioning that Marlene knew her mother. Eventually, they arrive at the entrance of the North Tunnel, where they wait for Tess to return. While they wait, Joel takes a nap, and Ellie tries to find something to do. At one point, she notices Joel's broken watch and tells him it still does not work. As Joel sleeps, rain starts pouring down, and he is suddenly awakened from a nightmare. Right there, Joel starts to realize how sheltered Ellie has been for most of her life. She's never seen much of the world outside the quarantine zone, and she's fascinated by even the smallest of things. Joel tries once again to figure out why the Fireflies want Ellie so badly, but before he can get answers, Tess finally returns. She tells Joe that Marlene is not going to make it, and the deal is back on. Smuggle Ellie, get the guns. So Joel, Tess, and Ellie head outside the wall and begin making their way towards the Capitol building. Along the way, Joel and Tess start wondering who Ellie really is. Tess even theorizes that maybe Ellie is a daughter of someone important. The three travel through underground tunnels beneath an apartment building until they eventually reach a ladder leading outside the quarantine zone walls. Tess tells Joel to go first and make sure the area is clear. As they step outside, they notice a military patrol moving in the distance, but they decide to keep going anyway. Ellie quietly comments that this is her first time ever being outside the walls. The three continue moving through the rooms until they pass through an abandoned truck. Suddenly, soldiers appear and detain them. And this is where Joel and Tess finally learn why Ellie is so important.
Turn around, on your knees. You scan him, I'll call it in.
All right. Put your hands on your head.
This is Ramirez at Sector 12, requesting pickup for 3 stragglers. Understood.
Look the other way. I can make this worth your while.
Shut up. Tired of shit. What's the ETA?
Couple minutes.
up or something.
Holy shit. Look.
Jesus Christ. Marlene set us up? Why the hell are we smuggling an infected girl?
I'm not infected.
No? Just lying?
I can explain.
You better explain fast.
Look at this.
I don't care how you got infected.
It's 3 weeks old.
No, everyone turns within 2 days, so you stop bullshitting.
It's 3 weeks. I swear. Why would she set you up?
I ain't buying it.
With some time to think, Joel and Tess begin dissecting their options. Ellie explains that her immunity could eventually lead to a cure. Joel wants no part of the mission, believes they should walk away, but Tess is different. For the first time, she starts to believe that maybe there's actually hope. Joel tries to talk Tess out of it, reminding her about the infected, the hunters, and how dangerous the world has become. Tess understands all of that, but she still does not want to give up the possibility that Ellie could be the answer to everything. Eventually, Tess and Ellie start walking towards the Capitol building, leaving Joe to follow behind. The three make their way through downtown Boston until they reach a massive gap in the road, forcing them to pass through the partially collapsed Goldstone building. Inside, they encounter several infected, including clickers. Tess explains to Ellie what clickers are while Joe forces an open jam door. The group continues through the building and finds the bodies of soldiers who had previously entered the area, only to be killed by stalkers. They climb through the upper floors while carefully avoiding clickers by throwing bottles and bricks to distract them. Eventually, they make it out of the building, but they are immediately swarmed by a large group of runners. Joel is forced to fight them off so Tess and Ellie can escape safely. Once the fight is over, Tess gives Joel credit, but he brushes it off and keeps moving. The three eventually reach a nearby subway station where they find dead fireflies and supplies, including a Molotov cocktail. They also discover a note revealing that this is not the group they were supposed to meet. After making their way through more infected, they finally reach the streets again, but just as they think they're safe, a massive wave of infected begins chasing them. Joe, Tess, and Ellie rush into a nearby building to escape. The building turns out to be an old museum, still filled with exhibits. Tess and Ellie squeeze through a small opening, but the path collapses behind them, leaving Joe separated and alone as more clickers appear. Joe fights his way through the museum until he eventually finds Tess and Ellie trapped inside a room, with infected breaking through the doors. After another brutal fight, they finally clear the area and make their way to the roof. At long last, Joe, Tess, and Ellie arrive at the Capitol building, but when they get there, they find a dead firefly lying near the entrance. Inside, things only get worse. The group discovers that every single firefly in the Capitol building has been killed by the military. Joe immediately wants to leave, and he and Tess begin arguing over what they should do next. And this is when everything changes.
Maybe they had a map or something to tell us where they were going.
How far are we gonna take
As far as it needs to go. Where was this lab of theirs?
Oh, she never said. She only mentioned that it was someplace out west.
What are we doing here? This is not us.
What do you know about us? About me?
I know that you are smarter than this.
Really? Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time.
No, we are survivors.
This is our chance.
It is over, Tess! Now, we tried. Let's just go home.
I'm not going anywhere. This is my last stop.
What?
Our luck had to run out sooner or later.
You going on?
No, don't touch me.
Holy shit. She's infected.
Joel.
Let me see.
I didn't mean for this.
Show it to me. Oh, Christ.
Oops, right? Give me your arm.
This was 3 weeks. I was bitten an hour ago, and it's already worse. This is fucking real, Joel. You've got to get this girl to Tommy's. He used to run with this crew. He'll know where to go.
No, that was your crusade. I am not doing that.
Yes, you are. Look, there's enough here that you have to feel some sort of obligation to me, so you get her to Tommy's. They're here.
Damn it.
I can buy you some time, but you have to run.
You want us to just leave you here?
Yes.
There is no way that...
I will not turn into one of those things. Come on. Make this easy for me.
I can find...
No, just go! Just fucking go.
Ellie,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this.
get a move on.
Joel and Ellie escape the building as gunshots ring out behind them. Tess stays behind to make her final stand against Fedra. Tess manages to take out 2 soldiers before she's finally overwhelmed and killed. Her sacrifice gives Joel and Ellie enough time to escape into the subway station outside the Capitol building. They travel through the tunnels, crossing flooded sections and abandoning train cars until they finally leave Boston behind for good. As they move forward, Joel and Ellie begin setting some ground rules. Joel tells Ellie to stay quiet about her condition, and neither of them ever talks about Tess. From here, Joel decides the best option is to head towards another town to where an old acquaintance of his named Bill lives. Joel's plan is simple: find Bill and get a car. While traveling, Joel and Ellie notice a large column of smoke rising in the distance and decide to head towards it. Along the way, Joel warns Ellie that Bill is a good guy, but he is also extremely paranoid and does not trust strangers. Once they reach the town, they quickly realize how serious Bill is. The entire place is covered in homemade booby traps, barricades, tripwires, and bombs designated to keep infected away from the safe houses. Joel and Ellie move through the back alleys of the town until they eventually reach a garage. But as soon as Joel steps inside, he gets caught in one of Bill's traps and is pulled upside down into the air. As Joel hangs there helplessly, Ellie desperately tries to cut him down while infected begin rushing towards them. Joel is forced to shoot them while hanging upside down, and just as one infected is about to bite him, Bill suddenly appears and saves them. Bill leads Joel and Ellie into an abandoned laundromat where the 3 of them fight through even more infected before finally escaping a nearby bar.
Close. Thanks for the heroics and all. Ellie. Hey, what are you... Joel?
Bill!
What are you doing?
Bill!
Let me go.
Turn around and get on your knees.
Just calm down a second.
Turn around
All right.
and get on your knees. Don't test me.
Just take it easy.
Any bites?
Oh.
Anything sprouting?
Oh, God damn it, I'm clean!
If I see so much as a twig. Ow!
Stop!
Son of a bitch!
You done?
Am I done? You come into my house, you set off all my traps, you damn near break my shooting arm. Who the fuck is this punk and what's she doing here?
I am none of your goddamn business, and we're here because you owe Joel some favors. And you can start by taking these off.
I owe Joel some favors. Is some kind of joke?
I'll cut to the chase. I need a car.
Well, it is a joke. Joel needs a car. Well, if I had one that works, which I sure as hell don't, what makes you think I'd just give it to you? Huh? Yeah, sure, Joel, go ahead. Take my car. Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
Listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you! You handcuffed me!
I need you to shut up. All right?
Whatever favors you think I owe you ain't worth that much.
Actually, Bill, they are.
Well, it don't matter, because I don't have a car that works.
But there is one in this town.
Parts. There are parts in this town.
Meaning that you could fix one up.
All right. If I'm gonna do this, there's some gear I'm gonna need. All right. It's on the other side of town. Now you help me go gather it, and maybe I can put something together that runs. But after this, I owe you nothing.
That's fine. A couple days from now, we'll probably be dead anyway.
Good. Follow me. Whole goddamn town's booby trapped. Best stay right on my ass.
Can't miss it.
Knock it off.
The three make their way towards the graveyard, carefully sneaking past an infestation of clickers as they move through the rest of the infected-filled town. Eventually, Joel and Ellie and Bill arrive at the local school. Outside, they kill several runners surrounding the building before hiding from another group of infected by climbing through a nearby window close to where the military truck crashed into the school. But things quickly get worse. A massive wave of infected starts closing in on them, forcing the three to run inside the school. After reaching the truck, Bill realizes the battery he wanted is gone, meaning the entire trip was for nothing. With no other choice, Joel, Ellie, and Bill continue pushing through the school. Eventually, inside the gym, where they come face to face with one of the most terrifying infecteds in the entire game, a bloater. After a brutal fight, they manage to kill it and barely escape alive into a nearby house. And that's where Bill discovers the shocking truth about his partner, Frank.
So that worked out well. Okay, I'll go check out this side of the house.
Bill?
Somebody had the same idea. They stole my shit.
Well, then what the hell is plan B?
You ought to be thankful you're still drawing breath. That was plan A, B, C, all the way to fucking Z. And furthermore, tell Tess that she could take this job.
Don't you bring Tess
she
into
can
this.
shove it right
It
up
has nothing
her
to do with... Jesus. What, you know this guy or something?
Frank.
Who the hell's Frank?
He was my partner. He's the only idiot that would wear a shirt like that. He's got bites. Here. And
I reckon he didn't want to turn, so he...
Yeah, I guess not. Well, fuck him.
Look what I found. It's got some juice in it.
That's my battery. That fucking asshole. Get out. Get out.
Okay. Jeez.
Battery's drained, but cells are alive.
Meaning?
Meaning, we push it, get it started, and the alternator will recharge the battery.
Is that your guess?
Look, you wanted a plan B. This is as good as it gets.
What are you thinking?
Thinking you drive and we push.
After escaping the infected, Ellie keeps driving until Bill tells her to stop. At that point, Bill parts ways with Joel and Ellie, giving Joel a siphon hose so he can gather gasoline from abandoned cars if they need it later. Before they leave, Bill makes sure Joel understands that they are finally even and that neither of them owes anything to anyone anymore. As Joel and Ellie continue toward Tommy's location, Ellie starts talking about a comic book called Savage Starlight. She says it's actually really good, but the ending is a cliffhanger. Joe asks where she got it from, and Ellie awkwardly admits that she stole it back at Bill's place. Joe asks what else she stole, and Ellie hands him a cassette tape to play in the truck. Joe jokes that the music is before his time, while Ellie also reveals she took a magazine with some interesting photos. Joe quickly realizes it's a pornography magazine and tells her she should not be looking at that, while Ellie just laughs it off. Eventually, Joel and Ellie arrive in Pittsburgh, but the road leading to the bridge is completely blocked by rubble and abandoned cars. Instead of turning around, Joe decides to drive straight through the city. As they move through Pittsburgh, they see a man standing in the middle of the road, acting hurt and begging for help. Ellie wants to stop, but Joe immediately sees through the trap and drives past him. The man suddenly pulls out a gun and more hunters emerge from hiding. One of them throws a brick through the truck's windshield, while another pushes a bus into the street, causing Joe and Ellie to crash into a hardware store. Now trapped, Joe and Ellie are forced to fight through hunters. After killing the ambush group, they move through the hunters' hideout and eventually reach an old military checkpoint. Along the way, Joe learns that the military in Pittsburgh had been overthrown years ago by the citizens who eventually became the hunters now running the city. At the checkpoint, Joe and Ellie avoid another group of hunters by sneaking through a bookstore and into the back alleys. Eventually, they make their way towards the bridge on the other side of the city and stop at the Grand Hotel. Inside the hotel lobby, Ellie notices the upper level and jokingly walks over to the front desk, pretending to be a rich hotel guest demanding service. It's one of the few lighter moments in the game, one that even Joe can't help but find funny. The two move through the upper floors in the hotel, fighting more hunters until they eventually reach an elevator shaft. Joe boosts Ellie up, but as he does, the elevator beneath him suddenly falls, sending him crashing into the flooded basement below and separating him from Ellie. While trapped in the basement, Joe has to fight through stalkers and, depending on the difficulty, even a bloater. He eventually turns on a generator to restore power, but the noise attracts even more infected. After barely escaping the basement, Joe finds his way back upstairs, only to run into another group of hunters. One of them almost kills Joe, but Ellie steps in at the last moment and shoots the man with Joe's revolver. Instead of thanking her, Joe angrily scolds Ellie for not staying where she was. That leads to an awkward silence between them. Eventually, they leave the hotel and head toward the financial district. Outside, Joe finds a hunting rifle and spots another group of hunters nearby. He decides to have Ellie stay back and cover him with the rifle while he sneaks around below. Just before he leaves, Joe quietly thanks Ellie for saving his life, finally acknowledging what she did for him. After dealing with the hunters, Joe gives Ellie a 9mm pistol and tells her it's for emergencies only. That moment is important because it shows Joe finally starting to trust her. The two continue through the financial district, but they are eventually spotted by another group of hunters. Joe and Ellie run through the streets using debris and side alleys to stay ahead of them, before finally ducking into a building and escaping. But instead of finding safety, they end up running into two more survivors.
Joel, stop! Look.
Leave him alone. Easy, son. Just take it easy.
It's all right. They're not the bad guys. Lower the gun. Man, you hit hard.
Yeah, well, I was trying to kill you.
Yeah, I thought you were one of them, too. Then I saw you. If you haven't noticed, they don't keep kids around. Survival of the fittest.
You're bleeding.
It's just nothing. I'm Henry. This is Sam. I think I caught your name was Joel.
Ellie.
How many are with you?
They're all dead.
Hey, we don't know that. There were a bunch of us. Someone had the brilliant idea of entering the city, look for supplies. Those fuckers, they ambushed us, scattered us. Now it's all about getting out of this shithole.
We can help each other.
Ellie.
Safety in numbers and all that.
She's right. We could help each other. We got a hideout not too far from here. Be safer if we chat there.
All right, take us there.
The two pairs form a temporary alliance to make their way towards a hideout that Henry and Sam had been using. After avoiding the hunters and fighting through even more hunters, they eventually reach a hideout. an office building overlooking the hunter's guard post near the bridge. Inside, Joe learns that Henry and Sam are also looking for the Fireflies. Henry explains that his group planned to meet with them in an abandoned military radio station outside of Pittsburgh by the following night. Henry also tells Joe that while the bridge guard post is heavily defended during the day, the hunters leave only a small crew there at night. That makes the nighttime their best chance to escape. Joe agrees with the plan, although things become tense when he questions Henry's motives. Henry is defensive at first, but once he realizes Joel is trying to find the Fireflies, he calms down. Joe suggests that they get some rest and wait until nightfall. That night, the four make their move towards the guard post. Joe and Henry quietly take out two hunters, while Ellie and Sam stay hidden nearby. They move through the area carefully, avoiding the searchlight while the hunters above laugh and shoot at Clicker on the street below. Eventually, the stealth plan falls and the fight breaks out. Joel and Henry kill the remaining hunters while Ellie and Sam stay hidden. Once the area is clear, they open the gate to let everyone through. But before they can escape, the hunters suddenly return and spots them. The group scrambles to climb over a nearby truck. Henry, Sam, and Ellie make it over first, but the ladder breaks under Ellie's weight, leaving Joe stranded on the other side. As the hunters begin smashing through the gate, Henry panics. Out of fear, he abandons Joe and runs with Sam. Sam hesitates for a moment, but eventually follows his brother. Ellie, however, refuses to leave Joe behind. She jumps back down to help him, and together they run into a nearby bar to avoid the gunfire. After fighting through more hunters inside, Joe and Ellie make a desperate run for the bridge. But once they reach it, they realize they are trapped. Rubble blocks the path forward, and there's a massive gap in the bridge. With nowhere left to run, Joe prepares to make one final stand against the hunters. But before he can, Ellie suddenly jumps into the river below. Joe has no choice but to jump after her. He manages to reach Ellie before she drowns, but the powerful current slams both of them into a rock and knocks them unconscious.
Henry! He's awake!
Hey, you. We're alive. Okay.
See? What'd I tell you, huh? He's good. Everything's fine. You know, Sam's the one who spotted you. You guys are taking quite a bit of water. What's wrong with you?
Henry!
Get back,
hey,
son!
Hey!
He's pissed, but he's not gonna do anything.
You sure about that?
Stop!
Joel?
He left us to die out there.
No, you had a good chance of making it, and you did. But coming back for you meant putting him at risk. Stay back. If it was the other way around, would you have come back for us? I saved you.
He saved me too. We would have drowned.
It's fine, I'm okay. You know, for what it's worth, I'm really glad we spotted you. Now, that radio tower, it's on the other side of this cliff. Okay? Place is gonna be full of supplies. You're gonna be really happy you didn't kill me.
The four find a massive pipe on the other side of a cliff, covered by a metal grate. Henry believes the sewer system should take them all the way out to the radio tower. Once inside, the pipe opens up to the main sewer and the group splits briefly. Henry and Sam head left where Joel and Ellie go right. Joel and Ellie come across a fenced-off section with a blocked door. Joel removes a grate from the wall so Ellie can crawl through and unlock it from the other side. While doing this, Ellie asks Joel if Henry and Sam are going to come with them to find Tommy. Eventually, the four regroup and make their way to a large flooded room. Sam admits he cannot swim, while Ellie points out a generator sitting on the other side. Henry notices an old platform on a motorized track, and together they work out how to get across. After solving the puzzle, avoiding two sleeping clickers, and carrying Ellie across a floating pallet, the group reaches the other side. Soon after, they come across a set of double doors painted like a bright and cheerful castle. But the second Joel opens them, he accidentally triggers a loud alarm trap. It quickly becomes clear that the sewer was once a settlement. For a brief moment, Ellie and Sam get to act like normal kids again. They kick around an old soccer ball while Joel and Henry look around. Henry quietly tells Sam to keep his voice down, but for a second, the game almost forgets about the apocalypse. That feeling doesn't last long. The alarm attracts a group of infected, and the four are forced to fight them off. And Joe notices that one of the infected was a clicker, meaning they have been living down here for a very long time. As they continue exploring, they discover one of the darkest areas in the entire game. Inside one room, there are 3 skeletons lying beneath a tarp. Written on the floor are the words, "They didn't suffer." A nearby note explains that one of the adults in the sewer settlement killed the children to spare them from turning into infected. The group is filled with toys and small reminders that children once lived here. The 4 continue deeper into the sewer until they reach a large open room. Joe unknowingly triggers a security door, splitting the group apart. Henry and Ellie end up on one side, while Joe and Sam are trapped on the other. Moments later, the noise attracts clickers, forcing Henry and Ellie to run, while Joe and Sam are left behind. Joe and Sam fight their way through stalkers and abandoned living quarters, seeing all the signs in this place once held families. There are sleeping areas, classrooms, storage rooms, and even a nursery. Eventually, Joe boosts Sam over the wall so he can lower a ladder. The two keep moving until they finally reunite with Henry and Ellie, but there's no time to celebrate. Another massive group of infected comes rushing towards them, forcing the 4 to run once again. Joe and Henry struggle to force open the gate while Sam crawls through a vent to unlock it from the other side. The group barely escapes and finally makes it back outside. As they catch their breaths, Sam notices writing on the wall, warning them that infected were inside. Joe asks Henry how far the radio tower is, and Henry says it's close. The 4 continue through the suburbs, and for the first time in a long while, there is a brief sense of peace. Ellie and Sam explore the abandoned neighborhood, joking around and pointing things out to each other. They even find a firefly symbol showing that fireflies once passed through the area. But like always in this game, the calm never lasts. As they make their way through another neighborhood, a sniper hidden in a house opens fire on them. Joe volunteers to deal with them while others stay back. Joe fights his way towards the house, killing several hunters along the way. Inside, he gets into a brutal struggle with the sniper before finally taking him out. Joe then uses a sniper rifle to cover Henry, Sam, and Ellie as they move through the street below. More hunters appear, but Joe takes them out one by one. The hunters from Pittsburgh suddenly returns. Joe's rifle barely damages it, but with one hunter climbs out with a Molotov cocktail, Joe shoots him before he can throw it. The Molotov drops inside the vehicle, setting the hunter on fire and causing the car to crash in a nearby house. For a moment, it seems like they are finally safe, but the crash and gunfire attracts a massive herd of infected. Runners, clickers, and chaos pour into the neighborhood. Joe, Henry, Ellie, and Sam fight desperately to survive before escaping through a hole in a fence. At long last, they finally reach the radio tower and settle down for a brief moment of rest. And that's where things get heartbreaking.
That's serious. It's Tommy's birthday, and that's all he wanted to do is just rent 2 Harleys and drive cross country.
Oh, man. I could die happy if I could just ride one around the block. What was it like?
It was good. It was real good.
Good? Can you believe this guy? Come on, man, give me details. Describe it.
You know what? You two deserve a little privacy.
No, Ellie. This isn't just any regular motorcycle, okay? You get on that bad boy, you feel that engine? Nothing like it.
Oh, yeah? How would you know?
Seen it in my dreams.
Okay.
I don't think anyone from my group is gonna show up.
Yeah.
Worst part about it all, explaining it to Sam.
Well, it's safe to say those two have officially bonded. What are you doing?
Taking stock of all the food we found today.
I see. And how are we doing on canned peaches?
Did Henry send you?
No. Why would Henry send me?
To make sure I'm not fucking up somehow.
I'd say we all did pretty good back there. Especially you. Is everything all right?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Okay. Well, have a good night.
How is it that you're never scared?
Who says that I'm not?
What are you scared of?
Let's see. Scorpions are pretty creepy. Being by myself. I'm scared of ending up alone. What about you?
Those things out there. What if the people are still inside? What if they're trapped in there without any control of their body? Scared of that happening to me.
Okay. First of all, we're a team now. Okay, we're gonna help each other out. And second, they might still look like people, but that person is not in there anymore.
Henry says that they've moved on. That they're with their families, like in heaven. Do you think that's true?
I go back and forth. I mean, I'd like to believe it.
But you don't.
I guess not.
Yeah. Me neither.
Oh. All the serious talk. I almost forgot. There. If he doesn't know about it, he can't take it away. All right. I'm pooped. I'll see you tomorrow. Damn. That smells good.
Good morning.
Where's Sam?
I'll let him sleep in for once.
Oh.
Well, if you want him to join us, you can go wake his ass up.
Okay. Sam? Sam!
What the hell? Shit, he's turning! That's my fucking brother! Screw it!
Shit!
Ellie? Ellie, are you all right?
Oh my god.
Sam?
Oh no.
Sam?
Henry? Ellie, stay there. Henry?
What have you done?
I'm gonna get that gun from you, okay? Oh, okay, easy.
It's your fault.
This is nobody's fault, Henry.
It's all your fault.
Henry! Henry, no!
Oh my god.
Months later, along the Snake River Trail in Jackson County, Joel and Ellie continue their journey west. Along the way, Joel tells Ellie more about his brother, Tommy. He explains that Tommy joined the Fireflies at one point, but eventually left them, and the two brothers separated on bad terms. Ellie asks Joel if Tommy will help them, and Joel responds he'll find out when he gets there. As they travel through the mountains, they come across a small grave with a teddy bear sitting on top of it. The sight immediately makes Ellie think about Sam and the toy robot he carried around. Joe refuses to talk about it. He tells Ellie that sometimes you just have to move on with your life. Eventually, the two arrive at the gate of a hydroelectric power plant where they are suddenly surrounded at gunpoint by several armed people. One of those people turns out to be Tommy. Tommy immediately recognizes his brother and rushes over to hug him. He then introduces Joel and Ellie to Maria, his wife, along with her father. Maria helps run a nearby settlement that has managed to survive by becoming a fully self-sustaining society. The power plant itself provides electricity to the town. As Joel and Tommy walk around the facility, Ellie talks with Maria about horses after noticing one nearby. Ellie explains that she learned how to ride while growing up, which causes Joe to ask who taught her. Later, Tommy reveals that he recently went back to Texas to find an old photograph of Joel and Sarah together. Tommy tries to give it to Joel, but he refuses to take it. The brothers later watch as the workers successfully get the hydroelectric dam running again, restoring power to the settlement. But underneath all that, there's still a lot of tension between them. Soon after, Joe and Tommy sit down alone and have one of the most important conversations in the entire game.
It's quite the crew you got here.
Yeah, they're good men. This place gives them a second chance. Gives us all a second chance. So why'd you leave Boston?
I've been on quite the adventure, little brother.
I reckon it's got something to do with that girl.
It's got everything to do with that little girl.
Well, go on then.
She's immune.
Immune to what?
I've seen her, I know, I've seen her breathe enough spores to take down a dozen men. Nothing. Now, I wouldn't have believed it neither, but I can show you.
All right. I'll bite. Why bring her here?
I was supposed to deliver to the Fireflies. The way I figure they're your boys. You finish the job, you collect the whole damn payment.
I haven't seen a Firefly in years.
You know where they are. Now, I'm not asking for much, Tommy. I just want some simple gear, enough to set me on my way.
What makes you think I'd do this for you?
This isn't for me, Tommy. This is for your damn cause.
My cause is my family now. You ain't talking about some walk in the park here.
Jesus, boy. Have Maria get some of your born-again friends to do it.
They got families, too.
Tommy, I need this.
You want some gear? Sure. But I ain't taking that girl off your hands.
This is how you gonna repay me, huh?
Repay you?
For all those goddamn years I took care of us.
Took care? That's what you call it? I got nothing but nightmares from those years.
You survived because of me.
It wasn't worth it.
I bring you the cure from mankind, and you want to play the pissy little brother.
We ain't back in Boston. You lay your hands on me again, it won't end well for you.
The hell is that?
We're under attack.
As he says this, the plant is attacked by bandits, forcing Joel to help Tommy fight them. After eliminating the bandits, Tommy, seeing Joel and Ellie interact, agrees to take her, but Ellie, suspecting that Joel is going to leave her, steals one of the horses and runs off into the woods. After fighting even more bandits, Joel and Tommy track her down to an abandoned ranch house, where Ellie confronts him about dumping her on Tommy. She brings up Sarah, saying that she is not his daughter and they are going to be fine together, which seems to conform his decision. More bandits arrive at the ranch and the brothers manage to take them all out. However, as they're heading back, Joel has a change of heart and decides to go with her himself. Tommy informs them that the Fireflies are in the science building of the University of Eastern Colorado, and Joel bids him farewell. Joel and Ellie arrive to the university on horseback and start searching the campus for the science building, which according to Tommy looks like a giant mirror. Ellie names the horse Callus, since Joel forgot to ask Tommy the horse's name. As they search, Joel starts to share a bit more about his past, telling her about his childhood dream to be a singer and how he never got to attend college due to being a father so early in life. He also continued by talking to her about football. He goes off on his own at one point, passing through the dormitory filled with infected in order to reach the generator that opens a locked gate. They start to realize how strange it is that the place is completely deserted and that they should have someone by now, since the only thing they encounter was a group of monkeys running around in a square near the dorm. He speculates optimistically that the large number of infected are there by the Fireflies as a defense mechanism, as Bill did. As they enter the science building, they realize that the Fireflies had left in a hurry for reasons unknown. Joel finds a recorder near a corpse of a Firefly scientist and learns that they were using monkeys as test subjects to try and study the effects of the Cordyceps brain infection in order to find a cure. The scientists who had been instructed to kill the infected test subjects instead believe they deserve to be free. While trying to let them out of their cages, he is bitten by one, subsequently passing the infected on to him. Listening to a scientist's recorder, they learn that the Fireflies have gone to Salt Lake City, Utah to continue their research. As soon as they discover this, a group of looters ambush them. Joel and Ellie make their way through the building, killing their attackers as they go. Joel is caught by surprise by one of them. When they burst through the door he opened, they struggle briefly before Joel punches him. The looter, however, drags Joel down with them. They both fall off the balcony. The looter, he dies on impact, but Joel is impaled by a piece of metal sticking up from the ground. Ellie climbs down and helps him get to his feet and guides him towards the exit. Ellie is forced to protect the both of them, as Joel is incapacitated by pain as the extreme blood loss. They manage to exit the building, and after Ellie shoots the looter who attempts to steal the horse, they ride away from the university.
Come on.
Just get the horse.
All right. Can you get on? I think we're safe. Joel? Joel? Shit. Joel, here. Oh, get up, get up, get up. You gotta tell me what to do. Come on. You gotta get up. Joel?
It's now winter. Ellie is on her own, trying to survive without Joel, who remains unconscious from his injuries. Ellie hunts down a rabbit with her bow after spotting a deer in the distance. She tracks it through the snow, hitting it several times with the arrow before finally following the blood trail to an abandoned coal mining area. The deer eventually collapses outside of a barn, but just as Ellie approaches it, she's interrupted by two strangers, David and James. The men offer a trade with Ellie for the deer, and she tells them that if they have medicine, they can take the entire thing. David offers Ellie to come with them, but she refuses. Instead, she keeps David at gunpoint while James leaves to get penicillin. Because of the cold, Ellie and David move inside a nearby warehouse while they wait. Soon, infected begin swarming the building from all sides. Ellie and David are forced to fight together to survive, holding their ground for as long as they can before eventually retreating deeper into the building where they are overrun. After killing the infected, Ellie sits down with David while they wait for James to return. That is when David reveals something that immediately alarms her. He tells Ellie that a few weeks earlier, some of his men were killed by a crazy man who was traveling with a little girl. Ellie immediately realizes David is talking about Joel, but as James returns with the medicine, Ellie points her gun at them. David tells James to stand down and hands over the penicillin, allowing Ellie to escape. She races back to the abandoned house where Joel is hiding, gives him the medicine, and lies down beside him. The next morning, Ellie wakes up to find David's men searching the area outside. To protect Joel, she gets on Callus and rides into the snow to draw the men away. During the chase, Callus is shot and killed, forcing Ellie to flee on foot on an abandoned resort. She eventually makes her way to an old inn, but just as she's trying to escape, David appears behind her and grabs her. He chokes Ellie until she's unconscious. Meanwhile, Joel finally wakes up. Weak and barely able to stand, he steps outside to only find bandits searching for Ellie. Joel takes out several of them and manages to capture two alive. And this is where Joel reminds everybody how terrifying he can truly be.
What the?
You wait here. Now, the girl. Is she alive?
What girl? I don't know no girl.
Fuck! Focus right here, right here. I'll pop your goddamn knee off. The girl.
She's alive. She's David's newest pet.
Where?
In the town. In the town.
Now you're gonna mark it on the map. And it better be the same exact spot your buddy points to. Mark it.
It's right there. You can verify it. Go ask him. Go on. I tell you, I ain't lying. I ain't.
Fuck you, man. He told you what you wanted. I ain't telling you shit.
That's all right. I believe him.
No, wait!
Ellie wakes up trapped inside a cage. As she looks around, she sees James cutting apart a corpse so the group can use it for food. That's when Ellie finally realizes the horrifying truth. These people are cannibals. Soon after, David enters the room and tells Ellie that he does not want to kill her. Instead, he says he wants her to join them. But Ellie now fully understands what kind of person David really is. She refuses to cooperate and even breaks one of David's fingers when he gets too close trying to grab his keys in the process. Later, David and James drag Ellie onto a table preparing to kill her for food. Desperate, Ellie suddenly tells them that she's infected. David and James hesitate for a moment, unsure if she is telling the truth. That brief distraction is all Ellie needs. She grabs David's knife, stabs James, kills him, and escapes into the snowstorm outside. Now armed with only her switchblade, Ellie runs into an abandoned restaurant while David hunts her down. Inside, Ellie is forced to sneak through the burning building while David stalks her through the shadows. She has to use every survival instinct she has, catching him off guard whenever she can as the fire spreads around them. Eventually, she stops running, and instead, she fights back.
I knew you had heart. You know, it's okay to give up. Ain't no shame in it. I guess not. Just not your style, is it? You can try begging.
Fuck you.
You think you know me? Huh? Well, let me tell you something. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look, look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
Joel.
It's okay.
Later on, Joel and Ellie finally arrive in Salt Lake City, where they are supposed to meet the Fireflies at St. Mary's Hospital. By this point, Joel and Ellie have become much closer after everything they went through during the winter, but Joe can tell that Ellie is still deeply shaken by what happened with David. She is quieter than usual and seems distant whenever Joel tries to talk with her. As they move through the city, they pass a highway full of abandoned cars, another empty quarantine zone, and eventually make their way through a bus station. Suddenly, Ellie spots something in the distance and runs ahead. Joe catches up to her and discovers that it's a group of giraffes wandering freely through the abandoned city. It becomes one of the most peaceful moments in the entire game. For a brief second, Joe and Ellie are able to stop and simply watch them. While they stand there, Joe hesitates. He tells Ellie that they have to keep going. If she wants, they can turn around and head back to Tommy's place and try to build a normal life. But Ellie refuses. After everything they've been through, she says it cannot be for nothing. The two continue through the city, passing through rows of abandoned medical tents. Joe mentions that in the early days of the outbreak, he worked at an area just like this and once saw entire families destroyed around him. Then Ellie gives Joe a photograph of him and Sarah that she stole from Maria back at the dam. Joe surprisingly accepted this time. He thanks Ellie for giving it to him. Eventually, they make their way to an underground tunnel filled with infected. After fighting through it, they reach a flooded section of the city and try to move across the tops of abandoned vehicles. But while they are crossing, one of the buses collapses beneath them and pulls them into the water. Ellie is dragged away by the current and knocked unconscious. Joe manages to grab her and pull her back to the surface, but she's not breathing. Desperate, he starts performing CPR. Before he can save her, a Firefly soldier appears and orders him to stand down. Joe ignores him, and the soldier knocks him unconscious. And when Joe wakes up, he learns what the Fireflies really plan to do.
Welcome to the Fireflies. Sorry about that. They didn't know who you were.
And Ellie?
She's all right. They brought her back. You came all this way. How'd you do it?
It was her. She fought like hell to get here. Maybe it was meant to be.
I lost most of my crew crossing the country. I pretty much lost everything. And then you show up, and somehow we find you just in time to save her. Maybe it was meant to be.
Take me to her.
You don't have to worry about her anymore. We'll take care
I
of her.
worry. Just let me see her, please.
You can't. She's being prepped for surgery.
The hell do you mean, surgery?
The doctors tell me the Cordyceps, the growth inside her, has somehow mutated. It's why she's immune. Once they remove it, they'll be able to reverse engineer a vaccine. A vaccine.
But it grows all over the brain.
It does.
Find someone else.
There is no one else.
Listen, you were gonna show me where...
Stop. I get it. But whatever it is you think you're going through right now is nothing to what I have been through. I knew her since she was born. I promised her mother I would look after her.
Then why are you letting this happen?
Because this isn't about me, or even her. There is no other choice here.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself that bullshit.
March him out of here. He tries anything, shoot him. Don't waste this gift, Joel.
Get up.
I said get up. Go on. Move. I said move. Give me an excuse. Which way? What the fuck are you doing? Keep walking. I said keep walking.
Where is the operating room?
I ain't got time for this.
Where?
Where? Top floor, the far end.
Alerted by the gunshots, the Fireflies find Ethan's body and begin searching the hospital for Joel. At this point, he's completely locked in. Depending on how we approach it, Joel either sneaks past or kills the Fireflies as he fights his way through the hospital, eventually blocking access to the West Wing to slow them down. As Joel moves through the hospital, he finds several recordings. One comes from the head surgeon explaining that Ellie's immunity may be the key to creating a cure. But to make that cure, Ellie would have to die. He also finds recordings of Marlene, who was clearly torn over the decision. Marlene talks about how difficult it is because she promised Ellie's mother she would protect her. Eventually, Joel reaches the operating room. More Fireflies guard the hallway leading to it, but Joel fights through them and bursts into the surgery room. Inside, the doctors are completely shocked to see him. The lead surgeon stands in Joel's way and refuses to let him take Ellie. Joel takes him out. Without another word, Joel picks up the unconscious Ellie and carries her out of the room with more Fireflies closing around him. He makes his way through the hospital, reaches the elevator, and eventually gets to the parking garage. That is where Marlene stops him one last time.
You can't save her. Even if you get her out of here, then what? How long before she's torn to pieces by a pack of clickers? That is, if she hasn't been raped and murdered first.
It ain't for you to decide.
It's what she'd want. And you know it. Look. You can still do the right thing here. She won't feel anything.
What the hell am I wearing?
Just take it easy. Drugs are still wearing off.
What happened?
We found the Fireflies. Turns out there's a whole lot more like you, Ellie. People that are immune. There's dozens, actually. Ain't done them a damn bit of good, neither. They've stopped looking for a cure. I'm taking us home. I'm sorry.
Wait!
Let me go.
You just come after her.
Eventually, Joel and Ellie are seen traveling back towards Tommy's settlement in Jackson County, but Ellie is still thinking about everything that happened. After everything they survived, after all the people they lost, after everything they sacrificed, she cannot stop asking herself, was any of it really worth it? Before she can fully settle into this new life, she asks Joel one final question. She wants him to swear that everything he told her about the Fireflies was true. And that final moment not only defines Joel as a character, but it brings the entire story to a close.
Back in Boston, back when I was bitten, I wasn't alone. My best friend was there. And she got bit too. We didn't know what to do. So, she says, let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together. I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. And then it was Tess. And then Sam.
None of that is on you.
You don't understand.
I struggled for a long time with surviving. And you... No matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
How large was the DLC team, and at what point did you actually begin working on it? And was there actually was there overlap between the main game team and the Cook the Hang team?
I hope they could be one, but it was hard. It was definitely a smaller piece.
Well, and hard to say exactly. I mean, I guess in terms of designers, we can, it was like four times. Yeah,
I would say it's less than half of the theme that will come in the main game. We started on it as we were wrapping up The Last of Us. Again, it was Bruce and I got pulled into Evan's outfit and said, we could think about DLC, like in the past. I pitched constant, like I think Evan got tired. I pitched a lot on, I want to do single player DLC. I did it after Uncharted 1 and then after Uncharted 2, and we have an opportunity to do it now. Just because how big the studio is and just where the projects were at. And then you say, well, I'm not sure, let's talk about it. And we had some discussions about, okay, what would we say, what could we reuse, what can we bring back? There was some discussions about the human versus infected, the stuff we didn't even finish. And finally we had like an idea that we're like, okay, this will be cool. So it would be really cool to stand on its own, and it could give you new insight to the main storyline. It seemed like something worth doing. So we just had this concept that we kind of put it aside, that we finished the game. And then I want to say like a week or two after we finished, we jumped on the DLC.
Yeah, I mean, I was on like 3 weeks doing press stuff, and we got back.
Yeah, there are people with their vacation, like a lot of similar to Naughty Dog.
Yeah, we jumped on it pretty right away. I mean, we had good ideas and wanted to get in there, and we knew we were doing playable Ellie, and there's no way I was gonna let that just go to other people without being involved.
In all honesty, it's hard to talk about The Last of Us without also talking about one of the most important DLC expansions ever made, Left Behind. After deciding to create a single-player downloadable content for the game, Naughty Dog immediately knew the story needed to focus on Ellie. During development, the team realized that many players wanted to learn more about Ellie's life before the events of the main game, especially her relationship with Riley, whom Ellie briefly mentions in the original story. At the same time, players were also curious about what happened between the fall and the winter sections of the main game, when Ellie was forced to take care of an injured Joel after the incident at the university. Because of this, the development team decided to structure Left Behind around two timelines happening at once. Ellie trying to save Joel in the present while also reflecting on her final adventure with Riley in the past. According to the game director Bruce Straley, the team felt the emotional weight of the story fully justified creating the DLC. The Last of Us Left Behind was released worldwide for the PS3 on February 14, 2014 as DLC for the original game. It was later included with the remastered edition on the PS4 and would later return again as part of The Last of Us Part 1 in the PlayStation 5 in 2022. And honestly, Left Behind isn't just some side story. It's one of the biggest reasons Ellie became one of gaming's most beloved characters. Now let's talk about it. The story opens up back at the University of Eastern Colorado, right after Joel is impaled by the metal rod sticking out of the ground. Just like in the main game, we see Joel and Ellie barely escaping on horseback before Joel eventually passes out from blood loss. But this time, instead of continuing forward, the story flashes back 3 weeks before Joel and Ellie's adventure ever began. We see Ellie asleep inside a military boarding school, where she is suddenly awakened by her best friend Riley, who jokingly pretends to bite her. Ellie immediately wakes up in a panic. It turns out Riley has been gone for 45 days without a word, and she finally came back because she felt guilty about disappearing. Riley then proudly shows Ellie her new Fireflies pendant, revealing that she has officially joined the Fireflies. Ellie instantly becomes nervous and checks around the room to make sure no soldiers are nearby. She is visibly hurt that Riley left her behind, but she also does not want to get into trouble because Ellie is still attending a military school where students are trained by Fedra to hunt down Fireflies. Riley refuses to hear any excuses and convinces Ellie to sneak out with her. Back in the present timeline, Joel is still badly wounded. Inside the Colorado Mountain Plaza, Ellie desperately tries to keep Joel alive by searching through medical supplies and applying first aid to his wound, leaving Joel behind with Callus. Ellie heads out on her own to Weston's pharmacy. Inside the building, she discovers notes from a pharmacist, leading her to believe there may be supplies hidden somewhere inside. Ellie enters the locked section of the store filled with spores, but because of immunity, she does not need a gas mask. She eventually finds the dead pharmacist and takes the key, but she also realizes the entire plaza is crawling with clickers. After sneaking past the infected, Ellie unlocks the room only to discover the first aid box is empty. Not giving up, Ellie spots a crashed military helicopter nearby and assumes there may be supplies inside. As she makes her way there, the story cuts back once again to Ellie and Riley. Inside the abandoned Fedra facility, Riley explains how she ended up joining the Fireflies. Apparently, while following one of their members, she was ambushed and brought directly to Marlene, who had already been expecting her. After going through a series of tests, Riley was officially accepted into the group. The two girls continue their journey until Riley finally reveals where she has been taking Ellie all this time, an abandoned shopping mall where the first two met years earlier. Inside the mall, Ellie and Riley begin exploring and messing around with old masks and displays. For a brief moment, they get to feel like normal teenagers again. Eventually, Ellie stops Riley, and the two share a quiet, emotional moment where Riley apologizes for disappearing and leaving Ellie behind.
You ready to see this?
Wait, I know what you're trying to do, and I'm really glad that you're not dead. I mean, I'm glad that we're back together, and
I didn't mean it. All that stuff I said before I left. I didn't mean any of it.
Riley, you're such a sap.
Bet you started it.
Oh, man.
Are you ready?
Totally. Are you kidding?
We then cut back to the present, where Ellie is trying to figure out how she's going to reach the crash helicopter. Moving through an abandoned campsite inside the Colorado Mountain Plaza, Ellie eventually makes her way downstairs, where she discovers a generator that is completely out of fuel. As she searches the area, she finds a gas canister, but it's empty. Forced to keep moving, Ellie fights her way through several stalkers hiding throughout the mall. After taking them out, she eventually discovers an abandoned armored truck with leftover gasoline still inside and siphons the fuel from it. With the gas finally secure, Ellie restarts the generator. The power instantly changes the entire environment around her. Electricity now surges through the flooded water below, electrocuting infected that step into it. Carefully avoiding the water herself, Ellie pushes through more infected and eventually gains access to a previously locked area leading directly to the helicopter. Inside, she finally finds a first aid kit. Thankfully, it's full. Holding the kit tightly, Ellie quietly says,
I'm not letting you go. I'm not letting you go.
The story then cuts back to the past timeline. Inside the abandoned mall, Ellie and Riley discover a working carousel. For a brief moment, the apocalypse completely disappears around them as the two girls laugh and ride together like normal teenagers. Eventually, the carousel loses power, but the fun doesn't stop there. Riley and Ellie sit together reading jokes from a pun book, with Riley eventually giving the book to Ellie as a gift. The two continue wandering through the mall, eventually finding a photo booth where they begin posing and taking pictures together. But when the machine refuses to print the photos, they smack it in frustration and accidentally break it. Instead of getting upset, they just keep moving. They eventually enter an abandoned arcade where the machines no longer work, forcing them to use their imagination while pretending to play the games. But eventually, the fun starts fading away, and the real reason Riley came back finally comes out.
It was alright.
You loved it.
Yeah, I kinda did.
You hear that?
Hey, you know what? We should head back. I need to head back.
You got plenty of time.
Riley, I don't have any more strikes left at this place. Tomorrow we'll just pick up where we left off.
I can't.
We'll just do it another day then. Okay, Firefly Girl, when?
They've asked me to leave.
Leave what?
Boston. I'm supposed to join a group in another city. I argued with them to stay here. But you know how Marlene is. Nothing's easy with her. Everything's a test. They're picking me up tomorrow.
Okay.
That's it?
Well, what do you want me to say?
I don't know. How about some friendly advice? I'm serious.
Why did you bring me here?
I wanted to see you.
No, why did you bring me here?
I don't know.
I don't know. You want my advice? Go. Come on, let's just say our goodbyes.
I'm gonna go check out this music.
Riley. Riley! God damn it.
Afterward, Ellie follows Riley through a storage area while trying to process everything she just heard. Eventually, they stop and continue talking about Riley's plans. Ellie is clearly hurt and angry that Riley plans on leaving her again. The two go back and forth emotionally, even bringing up the last time they were together before Riley disappeared. Riley explains just how much she risked just to come see Ellie one last time, even showing her the water guns that she stole for them. The mood lightens slightly as the two begin playing around again, having the water gun fight and even playing hide and seek through the mall. But deep down, Ellie knows the night is coming to an end. Eventually, she says it's time for her to head back home. That's when Riley makes a decision. Instead of leaving with the Fireflies, Riley decides she wants to stay with Ellie. And at one final emotional moment, the two finally reveal how much they truly care about each other.
Hey, so... I said it like an asshole, but I totally meant it. You should go. I mean, this is something that you've wanted for, you know, forever, so who am I to stop you?
The one person that can.
No, please don't go. I'll be so miserable without you. I'll be fine. And you'll be fine. And we'll see each other again.
You should keep these. Not gonna do me any good. You still lug that Walkman around?
Always.
Let me see it.
Here.
What's in it?
That tape you gave me?
You really will be miserable without me.
Shut up.
Leave that. Follow me.
What are we doing?
You'll see. Yeah.
Really?
Come here. Get your ass up here.
So stupid.
People say that we don't know what love is or how to make it grow. I don't know if all that's true, 'cause you got me and baby, I got you. Oh, baby. I got you, baby. You, baby. Say I love won't pay the rent before it's earned.
Here. What is that?
Yes,
Hey.
that's true, but don't have
What's
a
wrong?
lot, but at least I'm sure of all the things.
Don't go.
Oh, baby. I got you, baby. I got you, baby. I got flowers in the spring, yeah. I've got you to wear my ring. And when I'm sad, you're a clown.
Sorry.
And when I get scared, always around.
What do we do now?
We'll figure it out. But I don't think Marlene's gonna go.
Wait.
They don't say we are wrong.
Riley!
Back in the present, Ellie wakes up inside the crash helicopter with the first aid kit in her hands and realizes it's finally time to head back to Joel. But getting back to him is not going to be easy. As Ellie makes her way through the Colorado Mountain Plaza, she's hunted not only by infected, but also survivors from David's group. Knowing she cannot overpower most of them in a direct combat, Ellie instead uses her intelligence to survive. She manipulates the situation by luring infected towards the cannibals, creating chaos between both groups while she sneaks around and cleans up whoever is left standing afterward. Eventually, Ellie reaches the area where she hid Joel, but several cannibals are already there trying to break through the locked door. Ellie attacks them before they can get inside, and just when it seems like she's finally safe, more reinforcements arrive. What follows is essentially Ellie's final stand. She fights desperately through wave after wave of enemies while infected swarm the area because of the noise. Ironically, the infected end up helping Ellie by attacking David's men as well. After surviving the encounter, Ellie finally makes it back to Joel and begins treating his wound with the supplies she found so hard to get. The story then cuts back to one final time to the past. Ellie and Riley suddenly find themselves being chased by infected through the mall. The two sprint through the area together, with Ellie stabbing the infected using her knife while Riley covers her with a gun. As they climb across the scaffolding, Ellie falls and is nearly killed, but Riley rushes in and saves her. Moments later, Ellie returns a favor by protecting Riley from another infected. For a second, it feels like they actually might survive. But then, they finally stop long enough to realize the truth. Both of them have been bitten. And in that moment, the entire DLC reveals why Ellie carries so much pain throughout the main story. Because while Ellie survived, Riley did not, leaving Ellie left behind.
Ellie. Ellie, your arm.
No. No. Don't worry. I've done this before. I'm kind of an expert. Ish. Just stay calm. Stay calm.
There's some more stuff over there you can break.
What are we gonna do?
The way I see it, we got two options. Option one, you take the easy way out. It's quick and painless. I'm not a fan of option one. Two, we fight.
Fight for what? We're gonna turn into one of those things.
There are a million ways we should have died before today. And a million ways we can die before tomorrow. But we fight for every second we get to spend with each other. Whether it's 2 minutes or 2 days, we don't give that up. I don't want to give that up. My vote? Let's just wait it out. You know, we can be all poetic and just lose our minds together.
What's option 3?
Sorry. Come on. Let's get out of here.
Now that we know what happened in this game, we need to address why it matters. After all, this is one of the most timeless games ever released. And it honestly starts with Naughty Dog itself. Ever since the late 90s, there's always been this idea of the video game hero. Characters like Crash Bandicoot were energetic mascots. Jack became the edgy teenage rebel in the 2000s. And then there was Nathan Drake, a charismatic adventurer who felt like he stepped straight out of an Indiana Jones movie and right into our hands. But with The Last of Us, Naughty Dog killed the traditional video game hero, because Joel is not Nathan Drake. Safe to say he's the complete opposite. Nathan Drake always felt like a man who still had everything to lose. He had charm, friends, adventure, love, and purpose. Even when things got dark and uncharted, there was always a sense of excitement and fantasy surrounding him. Joel does not have that. Joel feels like a man who already lost everything before the game even started. He's older, broken, tired, and most importantly, emotionally frozen. The death of Sarah completely destroyed Joel as a person, and the game makes it clear that for the next 20 years, he never truly recovered from it. He does not live anymore. He survives. That is what makes him so different from traditional protagonists. Morally, Joel is gray. Not anti-hero cool gray either. He lies, he tortures people, he murders people begging for mercy. He refuses to help strangers on the road because he already knows how dangerous humanity has become. Even Tess hints at their dark history when she says,
Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time.
No, we are survivors.
This is our chance.
It is over, Tess!
and the scary part is, the game constantly makes us understand why he became this way. That's the genius of the writing. This game asks players to emotionally sympathize with someone who is not traditionally heroic. One of the best examples of this is the interrogation scene during winter. Joel captures two of David's men and brutally tortures them for information about Ellie's location. There is nothing heroic about this scene at all. It's violent, cold, and honestly terrifying because we understand how much Ellie means to Joel by this point. Players still emotionally stay on his side.
Girl. Is she alive? What girl? I don't know no girl. Fuck!
Focus right here, right here. I'll pop your goddamn knee off. The girl.
She's alive. She's David's newest pet.
Where?
In the town. In the town.
And that's where this game becomes fascinating. Joel does not represent morality. He represents survival. In this world, morality got people killed years ago. Survival is the only thing left. But then Ellie enters his life, and slowly, through the game, she begins to emotionally unthaw him. You see it in small moments. Him teaching Ellie how to use a rifle.
Head down. Right now, I'm gonna jump down there and I'm gonna clear us a path.
What about me?
You stay here.
This is so stupid. We'd have more of a fucking chance if you let me help.
I am. You seem to know your way around a gun. You reckon you can handle that?
Well, I sort of shot a rifle before, but it was at rats
Rats.
with BBs.
Well, it's the same basic concept. Lift it up. All right, now. You're gonna lean right into that stock, because it is gonna kick a hell of a lot more than any baby rifle.
Okay.
Go and pull the bolt back. Grab it right there. Just tug it. There you go. And as soon as you fire, you're gonna want to get another round in there quick. Listen to me. If I get into trouble down there, you make every shot count. Yeah?
I got this.
All right. And just so we're clear about back there, it was either him or me.
Listening to her terrible joke book.
I don't get it. People are making apocalypse jokes like there's no tomorrow. Too soon. That's it. That's all I got.
Heck, the giraffe scene.
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
What's the other option?
Go back to Tommy's. Just be done with this whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
Finally giving her first gun.
How'd I do?
How about something a little more your size? It's for emergencies only.
Okay.
Finally accepting the photo of Sarah.
Here. Maria showed this to me and I stole it. I hope you don't mind.
or my favorite, even him choosing to stay with Ellie instead of giving her to Tommy.
Ellie, get off your horse. Give it on back to Tommy. I'm gonna hang on to this fella, if that's all right with you. Go on, don't make me repeat myself.
What are you doing?
Your wife kind of scares me. I don't want her coming after me.
Sorry for stealing your horse.
Well, come back to town. Let's discuss it at least.
You know me, my mind's all made up.
Every small interaction slowly chips away at the emotional wall Joe built around himself for 20 years. And by the end of the game, Joe is no longer surviving. He is a father again.
Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
Joel.
And that's what makes Joel and Ellie work so well together, because Ellie represents something Joe lost a long time ago: humanity. And honestly, that's the real story of The Last of Us. Not the infected, not the apocalypse, heck, not even the cure. At its core, the game is really about parenthood and grief. Joel and Ellie start this journey as two completely different people forced together by circumstance. In Joel's eyes, Ellie is initially not a person. She's cargo. She's a job. Something to deliver so he can move on with his life. And Ellie notices that immediately. Throughout the early sections of the game, she constantly pokes at Joel emotionally, trying to break through that cold shell he keeps himself around.
Hey, look, about Tess. I don't even know what
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess. Ever. Matter of fact, we just keep our histories to ourselves. Secondly, don't tell anybody about your condition. They think you're crazy, they'll try to kill you. And lastly, you do what I say when I say it. We clear?
Sure.
Repeat it.
What you say goes.
Good.
But over time, that wall slowly starts falling apart. And what makes their relationship feel so believable is that the game does not rush it. Most games in 2013 were focused on spectacle, massive explosions, giant set pieces, cinematic action moments. But Naughty Dog went in the opposite direction. Instead of making players fall in love with the action, they made players fall in love with the quiet moments between characters. Moments like Ellie becoming fascinated by an old ice cream truck, her trying to whistle and failing repeatedly throughout the game, Joe randomly asking Ellie how she learned to swim, Ellie staring at old posters and wondering what the world used to look like before the infection, or even small conversations that happen only if the player decides to explore optional areas. These moments are what makes Joe and Ellie feel human. Even the pacing reflects this. After some of the darkest moments in the game, Naughty Dog intentionally slows everything down just to let these characters breathe around each other. And because of that, their bond never feels forced. It feels earned. One of the best examples of this is how Joel slowly stops talking to Ellie like she's a burden and starts talking to her like she's an actual equal. Early on, he barely acknowledges her existence outside of survival, but later in the game, you can hear genuine curiosity in that voice whenever they speak. The evolution is subtle, but incredibly important. And what really sells all of this is the performances from Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. Their chemistry carries the emotional weight of the entire game. Ashley especially gives Ellie this perfect balance between humor, innocence, anger, and trauma. Ellie still feels like a kid trying to hold on to pieces of childhood in a world that took childhood away from everybody. Meanwhile, Troy Baker plays Joel with this emotional exhaustion where even his silence tells a story. And honestly, that's why the relationship in this game works so well. It feels less like watching two video game characters and more like watching two broken people slowly save each other emotionally.
Boys, movies, deciding which shirt goes with which skirt. It's bizarre.
Get up. We're leaving.
And if I say no?
Do you even realize what your life means? Huh? Running off like that, putting yourself at risk, it's pretty goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
Tommy knows this area.
Oh,
better
fuck
than...
that.
Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
And that relationship becomes even stronger because of the world surrounding them. Because one of the greatest strengths in The Last of Us is the atmosphere and the world building. Unlike a lot of apocalyptic games, this world does not feel cinematic. It feels abandoned. And there is a major difference between those two things. Most apocalypse stories focus on the downfall of civilization itself. Giant explosions, cities collapsing, humanity fighting for survival during the actual end of the world. But this game takes place long after all that already happened. The apocalypse is over. Humanity lost. Now everyone is just living inside his corpse. And you feel that everywhere you go. Nature has completely reclaimed civilization. Highways are swallowed by grass. Buildings are collapsing into forests. Animals roam through abandoned cities like humans never existed there in the first place. Even something as simple as the giraffes walking through Salt Lake City tells you the world kept moving forward without us. But what really makes the atmosphere special is how much storytelling happens without dialogue. Some of the saddest stories in the game are never directly spoken to the player. Take the sewer settlement, for example. On the surface, it looks like another abandoned area. But once you slow down and actually explore, you realize families used to live there. There were classrooms, toys, sleeping quarters, and places for children to play. Then you discover the skeletons covered under the tarp with the words, "They didn't suffer." That moment hits because the game trusts the player enough to piece everything together themselves. The same thing happens with Ish's community. Ish is a character players never actually meet, yet through notes and environmental clues, you slowly watch the rise and fall of an entire survival settlement. And honestly, and by the end of it, Ish feels more human than some fully voiced characters in other games. Even the abandoned triad centers tell stories by themselves. Joel comments how he used to work in places like that during the early days of the outbreak, surrounded by destroyed families and chaos. Little moments like that make the world feel lived in instead of designed. And what makes the world even more interesting is how different survivors adapted to the apocalypse. Every major encounter in the game feels like another perspective on what the world has become. Bill represents isolation. He completely gave up on human connection and turned his town into a fortress of traps and paranoia. Bill survived by pushing everyone away emotionally, but the game quietly showed the cost of that lifestyle through what happened with Frank.
So that worked out well. Okay, I'll go check out this side of the house.
Bill?
Somebody had the same idea. They stole my shit.
Well, then what the hell is plan B?
You ought to be thankful you're still drawing breath. That was plan A, B, C, all the way to fucking Z. And furthermore, tell Tess that she can take this job.
Don't you bring Tess into this!
Shove it right up
nothing to do with... Jesus. What, you know this guy or something?
Frank.
Who the hell's Frank?
He was my partner. He's the only idiot that would wear a shirt like that. He's got bites. Here. And
I reckon he didn't want to turn. So
yeah, I guess not. Well, fuck him.
Then you have Henry and Sam, who represent survival through family. And honestly, they are one of the smartest narrative devices in the entire game because they act as a direct mirror to Joel and Ellie. At first glance, the two relationships seem almost identical. Henry is the older protector trying to keep Sam alive at all costs, while Joel slowly finds himself doing the exact same thing with Ellie. Both adults are forced to make difficult decisions in order to survive. Both children are looking towards their protectors for guidance and reassurance in a world that no longer makes sense. But the game intentionally contrasts the two relationships in subtle ways. Henry still has optimism left in him. Even in the apocalypse, Henry still believes there's a future for Sam. He still talks like somebody trying to survive for tomorrow. And then there's Joel, who does not. For most of the game, Joel survives simply because he woke up another day. There's no larger purpose in his life anymore until Ellie slowly changes that. And what makes Henry and Sam's storyline so powerful is that Joel is essentially watching another version of himself in real time. You can even see Joel becoming uncomfortable whenever Henry and Sam start bonding with them because deep down, Joel recognizes how emotionally dangerous attachment really is in this world.
How long have you guys been holed up in here?
A few days. We found a bit of food, though. Here.
Blueberries. Found a whole stash of them. You want some?
No.
Hey man, relax. We're safe.
So why haven't you left?
Been waiting for the right opportunity.
And?
Here. Check this out. These sons of bitches. Every day they congregate down there, guarding that damn bridge. Come nighttime, it's down to a skeleton crew. After sunset, that's our window. Most of them gone, sneak right past them.
That could work.
Oh, it'll work. It'll definitely work. Wow.
All right, ready?
Ow!
A blueberry hurt you?
It's been a while since that boy even cracked a smile. She doesn't seem bothered by all this.
That fear becomes even more obvious after Sam dies, because that moment Sam turns, Henry completely breaks psychologically. There's no dramatic speech, no heroic sacrifice, no emotional recovery. Henry shoots Sam out of pure shock and instinct, immediately realizing what he did.
That's my fucking brother!
Screw it!
Shit!
Ellie? Ellie, are you all right?
Oh my god.
Sam?
Oh no.
Sam?
Henry?
And then within seconds, he kills himself. That moment is devastating because the game shows how quickly love can become unbearable in this world. Henry's entire purpose for surviving was Sam. The second Sam is gone, Henry mentally collapses because there's nothing left anchoring him emotionally. And Joel witnesses all of it. That's why the scene matters so much to Joel's character specifically. It's not just tragic, it's a warning. Joel is seeing exactly what could happen to him if he fully allows himself to love Ellie the same way he loved Sarah. Because if Ellie dies, Joel already knows he probably will not emotionally survive it a second time. And that's what makes their dynamic so brilliant narratively. Henry and Sam are not just side characters, they are foreshadowing. And then there's the hunters, the The hunters are terrifying because they are not soldiers or monsters. They're just regular people who adapted to brutality. Pittsburgh especially shows how far humanity has fallen. The citizens overthrew the military, only to become even more ruthless themselves. They lure innocent people into traps, rob them, and murder them without hesitation. The game constantly reminds players that after 20 years of survival, morality starts disappearing. And looming over all of this is the ongoing conflict between Fedra and the Fireflies. Even after the world collapsed, humanity still found a way to divide itself. Fedra rules through military control, fear, executions, and rationing. The Fireflies fight back in the name of freedom and hope, but even they are shown to be flawed, desperate, and violent. Neither side truly feels heroic. That moral ambiguity is important because it reinforces one of the game's biggest themes. There are no real winners left in this world, only survivors. And honestly, one of the smartest things Naughty Dog did was use silence to reinforce all of this. There are long stretches in gameplay where almost nothing is said. You hear wind blowing through empty buildings, distant infected noises, the creaking of abandoned structures. Those quiet moments make the world feel hauntingly real. The infected themselves even add to the atmosphere because they do not feel like traditional zombies. They feel tragic, especially the clickers. The sound they make, the way the fungus has completely taken over their bodies, the fact that some are still standing in places they probably died years ago. It feels less like fighting monsters and more like seeing the remains of people frozen in suffering. And that atmosphere becomes even stronger because of how grounded the infection itself feels. And honestly, a major reason the world feels so believable comes from the infection itself, because the Cordyceps brain infection does not feel like some over-the-top Hollywood virus. It actually feels possible. That grounded realism is what made the infection so terrifying back in 2013, and honestly, it's still terrifying to this day. The concept itself was inspired by the real-life Cordyceps fungus, a parasitic fungus that infects insects and essentially hijacks their bodies.
Cordyceps is really a pretty interesting fungal pathogen. It's primarily in ants, and it basically affects their brain in such a way that they sort of clamp on to different grass structures and sort of stay there, or leaves, and sort of stay there to recapitulate their life cycle, to be ingested by another organism and sort of continue the cycle around to help with their replication. It does grow out of them. Those are sort of scary pictures, I think, and probably the premise behind how The Last of Us was envisioned. It's very interesting to look at. It's a little scary, and we see those certainly in ants and a number of other different sort of insect species. So I think it's interesting to talk about and to look through, but really not a risk for us. A lot of different fungi really have a particular thermal barrier, a temperature that they like to grow at, and some people think that our human body temperature has evolved specifically because of fungi, and we're just too warm for the vast majority of fungi to grow.
Naughty Dog took that disturbing concept and asked one simple question: what if this happened to humans? That tiny layer of realism immediately separates The Last of Us from traditional zombie stories. They are not reanimated corpses. They are infected peoples whose bodies are slowly being overtaken by fungus while they are still technically alive during parts of the transformation process. And the game constantly reinforces that horror visually. The infection evolves in stages over time, making every type of infected feel distinct. You have runners, the newly infected who still resemble humans in both appearance and behavior. They panic, scream, and violently charge at people almost like they are trapped between humanity and infection. Then you have stalkers, which honestly might be some of the creepiest infected in the entire game because they still show traces of intelligence. They hide, peek around corners, run away, and ambush players instead of blindly attacking. After that come the clickers, which became one of the most iconic enemies in gaming history. A massive reason for that is the sound design. The clicking noise alone became instantly recognizable. Naughty Dog understood that sometimes what you hear is scarier than what you see. The way the clickers slowly move through dark rooms while echoing the environment creates tension without the game needing loud music or jump scares. Even visually, they are horrifying because this stage of the fungus has completely burst through the victim's skull, essentially replacing parts of their face entirely. Then you finally have the bloaters, massive infected that represent what happens after years of fungal growth completely consuming the human body. They are less like people at that point and more like a walking tank of infection. But honestly, despite how dangerous the infected are, one of the most important things about The Last of Us is this: the infected are not the true villains. Humans are. The infected are almost treated like a natural disaster throughout the game. They are dangerous, horrifying, and tragic, but they are not malicious. Most of them are victims. Meanwhile, almost every major human faction in the game willingly chooses violence. The hunters murder innocent survivors for supplies. David's group resorts to cannibalism. Fedra executes civilians on the street. The Fireflies sacrifice lives chasing hope. Even Joel himself becomes terrifying, depending on the situation. That's what makes the world so dark. The infection destroys civilization, but humanity destroyed itself. And honestly, I will dive deeper into the infected themselves during the gameplay overview section, because each infected type drastically changes how you approach combat, stealth, resource management, and survival throughout the game. Because one of the smartest things Naughty Dog accomplished with The Last of Us was making the gameplay support the narrative instead of fighting against it. A lot of the games tell you the world's dangerous in cutscenes, but then once gameplay starts, you suddenly become a superhuman action hero mowing down hundreds of enemies without effort. The Last of Us goes the opposite route. Every mechanic in this game reinforces survival. Even the combat itself feels uncomfortable on purpose. The melee combat is brutal, desperate, and messy. Joe does not fight like Nathan Drake or an action movie hero. He fights like a tired man trying to survive another day. Every punch feels heavy. Every gunshot feels dangerous. When Joe beats someone with a pipe or strangles them during stealth, the game forces you to sit in that violence instead of glamorizing it. Even the death animations are disturbing. Enemies scream out each other's names, beg for help, or panic when attacked. The violence feels ugly instead of empowering, which perfectly matches the tone of the story itself. And honestly, that changes the player psychologically. Most games reward violence. This game questions it. You're not fighting because it feels heroic. You're not fighting because you have no other choice. The feeling becomes even stronger because of the game's scarcity mechanics. Ammo, it's limited. Resources, it's limited. Healing, it's limited. Sometimes you enter encounters with almost nothing and are forced to improvise. That creates this constant sense of desperation where every bullet matters. And because resources are scarce, crafting becomes a huge part of survival. Players constantly have to make difficult choices. Do you use supplies on a med kit, a Molotov, a shiv, a bomb? And even the crafting system reinforces tension because every item feels valuable. One wrong decision can absolutely destroy your chances of surviving the next encounter. The stealth mechanics also play a massive role in the game's atmosphere. Large sections of gameplay encourage players to avoid combat entirely because direct fights can quickly become overwhelming. Sneaking through dark rooms while listening to clickers nearby creates tension naturally without the game needing explosions or scripted action sequences. One of the most underrated design choices in the game is Ellie's AI. Normally in escort-style games, companion characters become frustrating burdens that constantly get in the player's way. Actually, Resident Evil. But Naughty Dog intentionally designed Ellie to stay close to Joel and avoid punishing the player unfairly during stealth sections. That decision was genius because it allowed players to emotionally connect with Ellie instead of becoming annoyed by her mechanically. As a result, Ellie starts feeling less like an AI companion and more like an actual person surviving beside you. And honestly, the gameplay constantly reinforces the emotional themes of the story itself. Joe scavenges because he has lived in survival mode for 20 years. Combat is brutal because this world brutalized everyone living in it. Stealth feels tense because one mistake can cost somebody their life. Even quiet exploration moments matter because they give players time to emotionally breathe between traumatic encounters. Nothing in the gameplay feels disconnected from the narrative. Everything feeds into the same emotional experience. And honestly, That's why The Last of Us changed gaming at the time, because this was not just another success exclusive for the PS3. This game shifted AAA storytelling. Before The Last of Us, cinematic storytelling already existed in gaming. Naughty Dog themselves had already pushed that idea heavily with the Uncharted franchise, but The Last of Us took things to another level because it was no longer trying to feel like a blockbuster movie. It was trying to feel human. That difference changed everything. The emotional storytelling in this game immediately raised the standard for what players expected from narrative-driven AAA games. Suddenly, audiences were no longer satisfied with just fun stories. They wanted layered characters, grounded performances, emotional themes, and morally complex endings. And a massive reason the game worked so well came from its use of performance capture. The performance from Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson fell far beyond what most players expected from video games in 2013. The subtle facial expressions, body language, eye contact, pauses in dialogue, all of it helped games start feeling closer to prestige television rather than traditional action games. After The Last of Us release, you can immediately feel the industry shifting. More studios started pushing emotional narratives. More games focused on character relationships. More developers started emphasizing cinematic performance capture. You can honestly see traces of The Last of Us in a lot of games that came forward. God of War heavily focuses on the emotional relationship between Kratos and Atreus in the right way that feels far more grounded and intimate compared to older action games. Even outside of gameplay, the industry itself started taking storytelling more seriously. Games were no longer just competing with other games, they were competing emotionally with film and television. And honestly, Naughty Dog proved they belonged in that conversation. This was also the perfect swan song for the PS3 era. People sometimes forget that The Last of Us released in June 2013. The PS4 launched only a few months later in November, meaning Naughty Dog released this game at the absolute tail end of the console generation and somehow managed to make it look and feel generations ahead of what people thought the PS3 was capable of. It genuinely felt like Naughty Dog squeezed the soul out of the hardware. The lighting, the animations, the facial performances, the environmental detail, the transitions between gameplay and cutscenes, everything about the game felt like the PS3 was being pushed beyond its natural limit. And honestly, that's part of why the game remains so relevant afterward. It was not just a great game for its time, it became one of the defining games of its generation, and eventually one of the defining games of gaming as a whole. But despite all the praise, what really kept this game alive was not just the graphics or the storytelling. But despite all the praise, what really kept this game alive was not just the graphics or the storytelling. It was the emotional core. And honestly, that's why The Last of Us still holds up over a decade later. Technology ages, graphics age, gameplay mechanics evolve, but strong emotional storytelling survives generations. Just ask Metal Gear Solid. That is exactly why this game keeps getting brought back. First, it was remastered for the PS4, then remade entirely for the PS5, then adapted into a critically acclaimed TV show. And through every version, the story connected with people emotionally. That says everything. Even now, more than 10 years later, people still debate this game constantly online because the ending never gives players a clear answer until the sequel came out. And honestly, that's what makes it timeless. The game leaves players with that one massive question. Did Joel save Ellie, or did he doom humanity? Because depending on how you look at it, Joel is either one of gaming's greatest fathers, or one of gaming's greatest villains. And the genius part is that the game never fully judges him for either interpretation. Instead, it forces us into the emotional conflict. Morally, players understand the Firefly's position. If Ellie's immunity could truly have created a cure, then sacrificing one life to potentially save humanity logically makes sense. But emotionally, players still side with Joel. And that emotional contradiction is exactly why the ending became so legendary in the first place. Because the ending does not just conclude the story, the ending defines the entire game. Throughout the entire journey, Joel slowly regains the ability to love again after 20 years of emotional death following Sarah's death. Ellie becomes more than cargo, more than a mission. She becomes his purpose. And when Joel learns the Fireflies are going to take her out for a cure, every emotional wall he's rebuilt throughout the game completely collapses. At that moment, Joel is not thinking about humanity. He's thinking about his daughter, or at least the closest thing he's had to a daughter in 20 years. That's why the hospital sequence is so powerful narratively. The game does not present Joel as a superhero saving the day. It presents him almost like a horror villain invading the hospital. The Fireflies are trying to stop him. Doctors are begging him to stop. Marlene tries reasoning with him. And Joel, he ignores every single bit of it. Because emotionally, losing Ellie is something he simply cannot survive again. That is why the lie at the end matters so much. Joel lies to Ellie because he wants to protect the relationship they built together, but at the same time, that lie also destroys part of the trust between them before their new life even begins. Love saves their relationship, but it also poisons it. And honestly, that's genius writing, because the ending works specifically because the game forces you to emotionally agree with Joel, even if morally you know he may be wrong. By the time the player reaches the hospital, Naughty Dog has spent an entire game making you emotionally attached to Ellie alongside Joel. So when the choice finally arrives, players are not thinking logically anymore. They're thinking emotionally, just like Joel is. And that's why the ending has remained one of the most discussed endings in gaming history, because The Last of Us was never really asking what was right. It was asking what love is capable of when the world gives you nothing left to lose.
For a long time with surviving. And you, no matter what, you keep finding something to fight for. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear right now.
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Now let's talk about the gameplay, because honestly, we have a lot to discuss here. The Last of Us is an action-adventure game, played from a third-person perspective, but unlike a lot of third-person games from that era, this one feels far more grounded and methodical. Throughout the journey, players move through post-apocalyptic environments, ranging from abandoned towns and collapsed buildings to forests, sewers, subway stations, and quarantine zones, all while trying to survive both infected and hostile survivors. For most of the game, players control Joel as he escorts Ellie across the United States, but the game also switches perspectives at important moments. Early on, players briefly control Sarah during the outbreak sequence, which immediately throws players into the chaos of the infection from a civilian perspective. Later on, during Winter, players take control of Ellie herself, and honestly, that gameplay shift subtly changes the entire feeling of combat because Ellie is far less physically powerful than Joel. And speaking of combat, survival is the main focus of everything in this game. Players use firearms, improvised weapons, stealth, and crafting to survive encounters against infected and hostile humans. But unlike most action games where combat makes you feel powerful, this game constantly makes you feel vulnerable. Even the difficulty settings reinforce this philosophy. The game includes easy, normal, hard, survival, and the infamous grounded mode. And honestly, grounded mode is what the game fully transforms into a survival experience. Enemies become much more aggressive, resources become incredibly scarce, listen mode is removed entirely, combat prompts disappear, and even the heads up display is stripped down. There is no safety net anymore. The only way to know how much ammo you have left is by physically checking Joel's backpack. And honestly, that level of immersion is insane. Grounded difficulty especially changes how players approach every encounter. Stealth almost becomes mandatory. Ammo conservation becomes life or death. Every missed shot feels painful because bullets are so limited. It creates this constant tension where players are always thinking 3 steps ahead instead of just running into fights blindly. And honestly, I think it's one of the gameplay's greatest strengths. This is not a power fantasy. This is survival. Even simple movement mechanics reinforce that feeling. Players can crouch to move quietly through environments, sneaking under objects and through abandoned buildings while avoiding infected nearby. And even the game goes out of its way to remind players that stealth is never completely safe. Even while crouched, enemies can still hear movement if the players are careless, forcing you to move slowly and patiently in dangerous situations. That slower pacing is important because it constantly keeps players immersed in the tension in the world. And honestly, that tension becomes even stronger once you start getting deeper into the game's combat systems and resource management. One thing I also appreciate about the gameplay is how much the world itself becomes part of the experience. Movement, transversal in The Last of Us, is not designed around speed or flashy movement. Instead, the game constantly reminds players that civilization has collapsed and nature has completely reclaimed the environment. To make progress, players are constantly climbing over debris, crawling through abandoned buildings, pushing through flooded streets, or working together with companions to reach higher areas. Simple mechanics like climbing ladders or boosting characters over ledges may sound basic on paper, but they quietly reinforce one of the game's biggest themes. Survival, it requires cooperation. Throughout the journey, Joel and Ellie are constantly helping each other navigate the world. Sometimes Joel boosts Ellie up to a ledge so she can unlock a path forward. Other time, Ellie finds ladders or objects that help Joel continue moving ahead. These moments may seem small mechanically, but they help strengthen the relationship between the characters through gameplay itself. And honestly, that's something Naughty Dog became extremely good at during this era, making gameplay interactions feel emotionally connected to the story. Swimming sections also help add variety to Transversal while reinforcing how destroyed the world has become. Entire city blocks are flooded, forcing Joel to swim through submerged streets and collapsed tunnels while carrying Ellie across water since she cannot swim. Even underwater sections create tension because Joel has limited breath, meaning players constantly need to manage resurfacing while navigating dangerous environments. And then there's the flashlight. And honestly, something as simple as the flashlight adds so much to the atmosphere. Large portions of the game take place in the dark, abandoned buildings where visibility becomes limited. Turning on the flashlight helps players explore, but it also creates tension because it feels like you're exposing yourself in dangerous territory. Little immersive details like the flashlight flickering and requiring a player to physically shake the controller to stabilize it made the world feel tactical in a way most games at the time did not. The horse riding sections also deserve mention because they provide some of the few moments of the game where players can actually breathe emotionally. Riding through forests, abandoned highways, and open landscapes with Ellie creates this quiet loneliness that perfectly matches the tone of the journey. It almost feels therapeutic after some of the game's more intense combat sections. And even interacting with objects helps immersion. Opening drawers, scavenging abandoned homes, slowly lifting garage doors, checking cabinets for supplies. All of these little interactions reinforce the idea that Joel and Ellie are surviving moment to moment by scavenging through the remains of human civilization. The game constantly encourages players to search every corner because resources matter so much. And honestly, that scavenging loop becomes incredibly addictive because every item you find feels valuable in a world where survival is never guaranteed. Health especially becomes one of the most important resources in the entire game. Early on in the outskirts section, players receive their first health kit, immediately teaching you how survival works in this world. Unlike most action games where health regenerates automatically behind cover, The Last of Us forces players to actively manage healing resources. Health kits restore large amounts of health, but they require crafting materials like alcohol and rags, meaning players constantly have to decide whether those supplies are for healing or save them for another crafted item later. And that decision making adds tension to every encounter. You can also find smaller healing items like canned food and energy bars scattered throughout levels, but even those never fully make you feel safe. Sometimes if players are extremely low on health, companions like Ellie or Tess will occasionally hand Joel a health kit, which honestly becomes one of those subtle gameplay moments that quietly reinforces the bond between characters. There are also bottles and bricks, and honestly, if you played this game, you already know how those two items basically become your best friends. At first glance, they seem pretty simple, but they are some of the most useful tools in the game. Players can throw them to distract enemies, stun infected, interrupt attacks, or even use them as melee weapons in desperate situations. And once you start dealing with clickers, especially, bottles and bricks become almost essential survival tools. They are honestly entire encounters where a single brick can save your life. The melee combat itself is also incredibly satisfying because of how raw and brutal it feels. Joel can pick up weapons like pipes, bats, machetes, and hatchets throughout the world, each one capable of dealing heavy damage before eventually breaking apart. And honestly, that durability system is genius because it constantly enforces the feeling that nothing in this world lasts forever. Even your weapons are temporary. Modified melee weapons become more brutal by attacking with blades and bindings. Joel can turn ordinary objects into horrifying tools for survival. Watching Joel swing a nail pipe onto an affected body honestly never stops feeling intense because the animations are so weighty and violent. Then there are shivs, which might honestly be one of the most important crafted items in the entire game. Shivs are required to stealth kill clickers and open locked shiv doors scattered throughout the world. Those doors usually contain some of the best supplies in the game, meaning players constantly have to decide whether to save shivs for combat or use them for exploration rewards. Again, the game is constantly making players think about survival choices. Even upgrading Joel feeds into the system. Training manuals and supplements allow players to improve skills like weapon sway, crafting speed, health, and shiv durability, slowly evolving Joel into a more efficient survivor as the game progresses. The guns themselves also feel grounded compared to most shooters at the time. Joel gradually gains access to pistols, revolvers, rifles, shotguns, flamethrowers, and even assault rifles later in the game. But because ammo is so limited, every weapon feels important instead of disposable. And honestly, ammo scarcity is one of the biggest reasons combat stays tense from beginning to end. On higher difficulties especially, players can go entire encounters barely surviving with only a few bullets left. The game constantly pushes players to think carefully before firing because reckless shooting can leave you completely helpless later. That's why every bullet fired feels meaningful. Even swapping weapons has weight to it. Joe physically pulls weapons from his backpack in real time, leaving him vulnerable for a brief moment while changing guns. Little immersive details like that prevent combat from ever feeling too fast or arcade-like. Everything in the gameplay slows players down intentionally. You are meant to feel cautious, careful, desperate, and honestly, that desperation is what makes every encounter in The Last of Us feel memorable, because as the game progresses, players slowly gain access to stronger tools for survival, but even then, the game never lets you feel too uncomfortable. Craftable weapons like Molotov cocktails, nail bombs, and smoke bombs become absolutely essential later in the game, especially during encounters with large groups of bloaters or enemies. And honestly, the first time you successfully throw a Molotov into a crowd of infected and watch the chaos unfold feels amazing. But even those powerful tools come with tension attached to them because crafting materials are limited. You are constantly forced to ask yourself, do you use this now? Or do you save it for something worse later? And usually something worse will come later. That constant resource management is what keeps the gameplay engaging from start to finish. The progression system also fit naturally into the survival atmosphere. Throughout the world, players find supplements in the form of pills or plants which can be used to improve Joel's abilities. Meanwhile, parts scattered throughout the abandoned buildings can be used to upgrade weapons at workbenches. And honestly, the workbench system is one of the coolest upgrade systems from that generation. Watching Joel physically modify his weapons in real time while hearing every metallic click and adjustment made upgrading guns feels tangible instead of just navigating menus. You could improve reload speed, stability, click size, damage, and more, slowly turning your weapons into more reliable survival tools. But to fully upgrade weapons, players also need to find tools hidden throughout the environment, encouraging exploration even further. And exploration honestly becomes one of the biggest parts of this game. Safes hidden throughout the levels contain valuable resources, but players first need to locate notes and artifacts containing combinations before they can even open them. And honestly, The collectibles in this game do way more than just pad out completion percentages. Firefly pendants, artifacts, training manuals, and comics all help flesh out the world and characters even further. Artifacts especially are important because they give deeper insight to the collapse of civilization. Throughout notes left behind by survivors, players slowly uncover tragic mini-stories scattered throughout the environment. Some are heartbreaking, some are disturbing, and some honestly make certain areas hit even harder emotionally once you understand what happened there. The comics are a really nice touch because they quietly reinforce Ellie's innocence throughout the game. Even in the apocalypse, she still gets excited over something as simple as comic books, reminding players that underneath all the trauma, she's still just a kid. And honestly, one of the most underrated mechanics in the entire game might be the optional conversations. Throughout levels, players can trigger extra dialogue moments by interacting with objects or stopping to talk with companions. These conversations are technically optional, but they add so much personality and emotional depth to the journey that it almost feels wrong skipping them. Some are funny, some are awkward, and some are emotional. But all of them help Joel and Ellie feel more believable as people. And honestly, that's what makes the gameplay loop in The Last of Us feel so special overall. You're not just fighting enemies, you're scavenging through the remains of humanity while slowly building relationships, uncovering stories, and trying to survive another day in a broken world. The game constantly pressures players into making survival decisions under stress, and honestly, that balancing act is what makes the crafting system so satisfying. You never truly feel overpowered because resources are always running low. Even inventory management plays into that tension. Players can only carry a limited amount of crafting supplies and crafted items at a time, encouraging them to constantly think ahead and use resources strategically instead of hoarding everything forever. Looking back at the entire gameplay loop is probably why The Last of Us feels so different from most action games during the PS3 era. It was not built around empowerment, it was built around tension. Every system in the game, crafting, scavenging, upgrading, exploration, and combat feeds into the same core feeling: survival at any cost. That feeling of survival becomes even more intense once combat fully opens up, because combat in The Last of Us is incredibly flexible in how players can approach encounters. You can sneak through environments silently, distracting enemies with bottles and bricks before taking them down one by one through stealth. You can carefully pick enemies apart using firearms from a distance. Or if things completely fall apart, you can turn the encounter into full chaos using explosives, melee combat, and desperation. That unpredictability is what makes the combat system so memorable. No encounter ever truly feels clean. Sometimes stealth works perfectly. Other times, a tiny mistake can turn the entire area into absolute panic as infected sprint towards you or hunters begin flanking your position, and the game is constantly forcing players to adapt in real time. Stealth especially becomes one of the most important mechanics in the game, because direct combat can sometimes be overwhelming extremely fast. Sneaking behind enemies for silent takedowns feels satisfying, but also creates tension because players are always terrified of getting spotted. The game's listen mode was a genius idea for its gameplay. By holding down a button, players can detect enemy movement through walls based on sound, helping them carefully plan routes and attacks. It almost feels like Joel's surviving off of instinct and experience rather than some unrealistic superpower. The companion system also deserves a lot of credit. During combat, players constantly need to protect companions when enemies grab them. Seeing Ellie or another partner struggling while that red danger icon appears immediately creates panic, because if players fail to react fast enough, it's game over. Little mechanics like that reinforce the idea that survival is not just about protecting yourself, it's about protecting each other. Cover mechanics also play a massive role in combat flow. Players constantly duck behind walls, cars, desks, and debris while trying to line up shots without exposing themselves too long. The AI in this game is aggressive enough that sitting in one spot too long can absolutely get you murked. Enemies flank your positions, rush you, throw explosives, and force you to constantly relocate during fights. That movement between cover keeps combat feeling tense and dynamic. Stealth is still where gameplay shines the most. And what makes stealth encounters so good is how differently enemies behave. Humans can be slightly strangled from behind, Runners can be taken down quietly if approached carefully. Stalkers move erratically and unpredictably, making stealth much more difficult. Clickers require shivs for silent kills, and bloaters cannot be grabbed at all. Every infected type changes the rhythm of stealth entirely. And honestly, that enemy variety is a massive reason the gameplay stays engaging throughout the entire experience. The stealth kills themselves create tension because strangling enemies takes time. Players constantly need to rotate the camera aware of their surroundings while silently taking enemies down, knowing somebody could walk around a corner at any moment. The shiv kills are even more intense. Using a shiv allows Joel to instantly kill enemies silently, and against clickers it becomes almost mandatory. There is honestly something nerve-wracking about slowly sneaking behind a clicker and knowing one mistake means instant death, and that fear never fully goes away, even by the end of the game. I think it's one of the greatest accomplishments of this game overall. The game constantly reminds players that the world didn't just collapse physically, humanity fractured alongside it. Early on, players deal with robbers, smugglers, and criminals inside the quarantine zone, showing the corruption already growing underneath the military rule. Then you have the military soldiers themselves enforcing martial law through violence and executions. Later on, the hunters, who become one of the most dangerous enemies in the game because they represent survivors who completely abandon morality. Pittsburgh especially shows this perfectly, with hunters ambushing innocent people for supplies and killing them without hesitation. Then you got the bandits, which were cannibals like David's group, random survivors trying to scrape by, and eventually even the Fireflies themselves. That's what makes the human enemy so interesting. Nobody sees themselves as evil. Everybody believes they're surviving only the way they know how to. Even armor enemies reinforce this survival mentality. Some enemies wear military-grade helmets and body armor, forcing players to adapt by aiming carefully, using explosives, or relying on stealth instead of brute force. That variety is what keeps the combat from becoming repetitive. Every encounter feels like another test of survival, not because the game wants you to feel powerful, because it wants you to feel that pressure. The infected themselves are a massive reason why the gameplay stays tense from beginning to end, because every infected type completely changes how players approach encounters. Starting with the runners, these are people still in the early stages of infection. They are fast, aggressive, and still have functioning eyesight, which constantly makes them terrifying in their own way because they still resemble humans. Once one spots you, the rest immediately rush to your position, turning encounters into pure panic almost instantly. Runners are probably responsible for a lot of players learning very quickly that getting surrounded in this game is basically a death sentence. The next enemy I want to talk about is the Stalkers. Stalkers might secretly be the creepiest infected in the entire game. Unlike the runners who charge at you, stalkers actually hide and ambush players. They duck behind cover, peek around corners, and move unpredictably through the environments, waiting for openings to attack. That behavior completely changes the pacing for encounters. Players suddenly stop feeling like hunters and start feeling like hunted themselves. The hotel basement sewer encounters with the stalkers are probably some of the most stressful moments in the entire game because of how unpredictable they are. The second one jumps out at you, panic immediately kicks in. Next up, we have the clickers. The moment players encounter clickers for the first time is when they realize the game is operating on a completely different level atmosphere-wise. In this stage, the fungus has completely overtaken the victim's face, blinding them entirely, instead navigating using echolocation through iconic clicking sounds, almost like a bat. And those sounds alone became legendary. The clicking noise is honestly one of the most recognizable audio designs in gaming history because it immediately creates fear the second players hear it. What makes clickers so dangerous is how fragile stealth becomes around them. Players must move extremely slowly and carefully because one wrong step can instantly alert them, and once a clicker grabs Joel, it's over. That's why shivs become so important mechanically, because being able to silently eliminate clickers or escape their attacks entirely becomes a huge advantage later in the game. And the tension of sneaking through dark buildings filled with clickers never really stops being effective, no matter how many times you replay the game. Then the last big infected enemy we have is the bloaters. These things are basically tanks. Bloaters represent the final stage of infection, where the fungus has completely consumed the body and turned the infected into a giant armored monster capable of launching spore bombs from a distance. Every bloater encounter feels like a mini boss fight. Players are suddenly forced to unload everything they have. Molotov cocktails, shotguns, nail bombs, flamethrowers. Because trying to fight one head on without preparation usually ends horribly. And that's what I appreciate about how every infected type serves a purpose mechanically. Runners create chaos, stalkers create paranoia, clickers create tension, bloaters create panic. Together, they constantly force players to adapt instead of relying on one playstyle in the entire game. Even though the single player is what most people remember, there's also a multiplayer mode that used to exist. Factions deserve some respect, too. Factions took the survival gameplay of the main campaign and transformed it into a slower tactical multiplayer experience focused on scavenging, teamwork, and survival instead of arcade-style action. Players joined either Hunters or the Fireflies and fought throughout modes like Supply Raids, Survivors, and Interrogation while managing resources and keeping their faction alive over a 12-week journey system. What made Faction stand out was how it kept the tone of the main game intact. Combat stayed intense, ammo stayed limited, stealth mattered, and crafting mattered. Even multiplayer felt grounded in survival rather than becoming some over-the-top shooter. And looking back, that honestly summarizes the gameplay of The Last of Us perfectly overall. Every mechanic in this game, stealth, crafting, combat, exploration, transversal, and survival, feeds into one core idea. The world does not care if you live or die, and surviving another day always comes at a cost. Looking back at The Last of Us as a whole, the gameplay succeeds because it never feels disconnected from the story it's trying to tell. Every mechanic, every encounter, every scavenged bullet, and every desperate fight reinforces the same emotional themes the narrative pushes forward. The combat is brutal because the world is brutal. Resources are scarce because humanity is hanging on by a thread. Stealth feels stressful because survival in this world means avoiding death whenever possible, not charging directly into it. Even the quiet moments of exploration help players absorb the loneliness of civilization long gone. Naughty Dog didn't just create gameplay systems for players to interact with. They created systems that made players feel emotional weight of survival. And honestly, that's why the gameplay of The Last of Us still holds up today. It's not trying to make you feel like a hero. It's trying to make you feel like a human. Originally, The Last of Us released exclusively for the PlayStation 3 on June 14, 2013. For many people, this was the final masterpiece of the PS3 era. At the time, it was shocking how good the game looked running on aging hardware. Naughty Dog somehow managed to squeeze every ounce of power out of the console with detailed facial animations, cinematic lighting, realistic environments, and seamless transitions between gameplay and cutscenes. The original version ran at 30 frames per second with low resolution textures compared to future releases. But despite those technical limitations, the atmosphere and emotional storytelling still hit incredibly hard. The PS3 version also included the original Factions multiplayer mode, which developed a cult following because of how tense and tactical it felt compared to online shooters at the time. Looking back, the original release truly felt like Naughty Dog giving the PlayStation 3 one final send-off before the next generation arrived. But then only a year later, Naughty Dog released The Last of Us Remaster for the PS4, and honestly, this became the version most players experienced for years. Remastered kept the same exact core game, meaning the story, combat, level design, AI behavior, multiplayer all remained largely unchanged from the original PS3. But technically, it was a huge improvement. The game now targeted 60 frames per second and ran at 1080p, making gameplay feel significantly smoother and cleaner overall. Character models, textures, shadows, and lighting were all improved, helping the world feel even more immersive. The remaster also included all previously released DLC like Left Behind alongside a photos mode, audio commentary during cutscenes, and better controller integration using the DualShock 4 speaker and touchpad. Honestly, this version struck the perfect balance between preserving the original experience while modernizing it for a new generation. Then we move on to 2022. Naughty Dog released The Last of Us Part 1 for the PlayStation 5, which was not simply a remaster, but a complete remake rebuild from the ground up. Visually, the game looks dramatically closer to modern titles with fully rebuilt character models, advanced lighting, realistic facial animations, denser environments, improved particle effects, and far more immersive audio design. Gameplay was also refined with smarter enemy AI, smoother animations, updated controls, improved accessibility options, and better environmental interactions. The remake also utilized the PS5 hardware heavily through DualSense haptic feedback, adapted triggers, 3D audio support, and near instant loading times thanks to the SSD. However, unlike the PS3 and the PS4 versions, the remake removed the factions multiplayer entirely, focusing purely on the single player experience. While some players question whether the remake was necessary due to the existence of the remaster, there's no denying this game became the definitive visual version of the game. And honestly, comparing all three versions really comes down to what kind of experience you want. The original PS3 has historical value because it represents the gameplay exactly as players first experienced it back in 2013 during the final days of the PS3 generation. The remastered version is essentially the same game mechanically, but smoother, cleaner, and easier to revisit today thanks to the improved frame rate and bundled content. Meanwhile, Part 1 on the PS5 is the most immersive and technically advanced version by far, rebuilding the game to feel closer to a modern release while preserving the original story almost entirely. Truthfully, both the remastered version and the remake version provide nearly the same exact emotional experience overall, so players cannot really go wrong with either one. But personally, I would say the remake edges out slightly ahead because of some of its quality of life improvements, especially the enhanced listening system where Joel can now better detect nearby items and resources, making exploration feel smoother and slightly less stressful overall. It subtly makes survival easier, but at the same time, it also makes relying on the world feel more natural than ever before. Upon release, The Last of Us received universal acclaim from critics and quickly became one of the highest rated games in the entire PS3 generation. Sitting at a 95 on Metacritic, the game was praised heavily for its storytelling, atmosphere, character writing, performances, world building, and emotional weight. Critics from outlets like IGN, Eurogamer, Edge, and Game Informer all describe the game as a masterpiece, with many calling it the best PS3 exclusive ever made. IGN's Colin Moriarty famously labeled it a masterpiece, while Edge called it one of the most emotionally resonant story-driven games of the entire console generation. And honestly, looking back now, it's easy to see why people reacted that way, because in 2013, there was truly nothing else quite like it on this scale. The relationship between Joel and Ellie became the centerpiece of most reviews. Critics constantly praised how naturally believable their bond felt throughout their journey. Reviewers highlighted the optional conversations, environmental interactions, and quiet moments between the two as major reasons why the emotional connections work so well. The performances from Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson were heavily praised, with many critics saying the acting elevated the script to another level entirely. A lot of reviewers even pointed out how Ellie herself broke away from many stereotypes found in gaming at that time. Instead of being written as another helpless companion, Ellie felt layered, vulnerable, intelligent, funny, and emotionally believable. The game also received praise for its depiction of LGBT characters, especially Bill and later the relationship explored in Left Behind. For many players and critics, Naughty Dog proved that blockbuster games could tell mature emotional stories without sacrificing character depth. The game also received strong praise, particularly the attention of combat and survival mechanics. Critics appreciated how vulnerable players felt during encounters and how the crafting and stealth system supported the game's atmosphere. The sound design was another massive highlight, especially the terrifying audio design behind Clickers and Gustavo Stanola's haunting soundtrack, which many reviewers felt perfectly captured the loneliness of the world. The visuals were also constantly praised for some of the best ever seen on the PS3, with many critics shocked by the amount of detail Naughty Dog squeezed out of the aging hardware system. However, not every reviewer was flawless. Some critics felt the enemy AI occasionally hurt immersion, especially when companions would unrealistically avoid detection during stealth encounters. Others argued the combat itself could feel repetitive or overly brutal at times. But interesting enough, even the violence became part of the conversation surrounding the game. Many reviewers noted how uncomfortable and heavy the violence felt, with some praising the game specifically because it refused to glorify killing. Instead of violence feeling empowering, critics observed how the game intentionally made players question their actions and Joel's morality throughout the game. When The Last of Us Remaster launched on the PS4, it once again received universal acclaim, with critics praising the improved frame rate, visual graphics, included DLC, and additional features like photo mode and developer commentary. Many reviewers even referred to it as a definitive version of the game at the time, and honestly, that says a lot about the legacy of The Last of Us overall. Very few games released to critical acclaim get remastered a year later to even more critical acclaim, then receive a full remake almost a decade later while still remaining one of the most discussed games in the industry. Looking back now, the reception of The Last of Us was not just about people enjoying another PS3 exclusive. It was the moment many critics and players realized the video game had fully entered the conversation alongside film and television as a serious storytelling medium. This game became a phenomenon. Even before launch, the game was already dominating preview coverage at E3, winning multiple awards and generating massive hype from critics who had seen early demonstrations. Then once the game finally released, it quickly became one of the highest rated games of 2013, sitting just behind GTA 5 on several review sites. But honestly, what stands out is how many Game of the Year awards The Last of Us ended up winning across the industry. The game took home major awards from the British Academy Video Game Awards, the DICE Awards, and the Game Developers Choice Awards, while also sweeping Game of the Year honors from outlets like IGN, Kotaku, Destructoid, Game Trailer, Giant Bomb, Hardcore Gamer, and many others. At one point, it genuinely felt like every major gaming publication was crowning Last of Us as the defining game of the year. And honestly, Naughty Dog as a studio received just as much praise as the game itself. The company won awards for Studio of the Year and Best Developer from multiple outlets, proving that this was not just viewed as a lucky hit. Critics recognized that Naughty Dog had fundamentally raised the standard for storytelling and presentation in AAA games. The performances from Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson were also heavily celebrated throughout award season. Baker received multiple awards for his portrayal of Joel, while Ashley especially became one of the breakout stars of the industry because of her performance as Ellie, and honestly, she deserved it. Her ability to balance Ellie's humor, fear, anger, innocence, and emotional trauma throughout the game became one of the biggest reasons the story resonated with so many people. The game's writing itself also won numerous awards, including recognition from the Writers Guild of America, which honestly says a lot about how difficult it was for video games to be taken seriously in storytelling spaces back then. If you look back in time, this is exactly what Jason Rubin was talking about in 2005.
I'd like to see this art form become an art form. I was actually called by the LA Times and asked, is video games an art form? That's how far we have to go. Is video games even an art form?
And honestly, the accolades just keep going. The Last of Us won awards for Best New IP, Best Action Adventure Game, Adventure Game of the Year, Outstanding Innovation in Gaming, Best Third-Person Shooter, Best Overall Sound, and even Best PlayStation Multiplayer because of Factions. That level of dominance across multiple categories just showed how complete the overall package was. And looking back now, what makes all of this even more impressive is the game's long-term legacy. Years later, The Last of Us continued appearing on Best Games of the Decade lists from outlets like Metacritic, VG247, Mashable, and The Hollywood Reporter. The game never really disappeared from the conversation because of its influence on storytelling. Performance capture, atmosphere, emotional game design could still be felt across the industry even years later. And honestly, when you really sit back and look at all the praise, awards, remasters, remakes, and discussions around this game, it becomes pretty obvious. The Last of Us was not just one of the defining games of the PS3 era, it became one of the defining games in gaming history. Commercially, this game was an absolute monster. With just 7 days of release, it already sold 1.3 million copies, making it the biggest selling video game launch of 2013 at that time. Only 3 weeks later, it had climbed past 3.4 million copies, becoming the fastest selling PS3 game of that year, and the biggest original game launch since LA Noire. The game also dominated digitally, becoming a best-selling PS3 release on the PlayStation Store before eventually being overtaken by, of course, GTA 5. In the UK, the game stayed at the #1 spot for 6 consecutive weeks, which was incredibly impressive considering it was competing against massive multi-platform titles. Within just 48 hours, the game had already generated more money in the UK than the film Man of Steel did during the same time frame. And honestly, the craziest part is the game just kept selling year after year. By 2014, The Last of Us had already sold 8 million copies across the PS3 and PS4 versions combined. By 2018, the number climbed to 17 million, and by 2019, it surpassed over 20 million copies sold overall, making it one of the best-selling PlayStation exclusives ever released. The remaster version especially exploded on the PlayStation 4, introducing an entirely new audience to Joel and Ellie's story. And honestly, when you combine the sales, awards, remasters, remakes, HBO adaptation, and constant discussion surrounding the game, it becomes clear that The Last of Us evolved beyond just being another successful exclusive. It became one of Sony's defining franchises. Its legacy also became impossible to ignore across the gaming industry itself. Critics and developers alike constantly refer to this game as one of the defining titles of the 7th generation console and one of the greatest games ever made. Many developers openly admitted the game influenced how they approach storytelling afterwards. There were even attempts to adapt the story into a film, with projects connected to people like Sam Raimi entering development at one point, before eventually falling apart. But honestly, everything came full circle in 2023 when Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin brought the series to television through the Last of Us adaptation starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey. And honestly, the fact that an HBO adaptation became both critically acclaimed and massively successful only proved how powerful the original story really was. Very few games can successfully transition into mainstream television while keeping the emotional core intact, but The Last of Us somehow managed to pull it off. And honestly, when you really step back and look at everything surrounding this game, the reviews, the awards, the sales, the remasters, the remakes, the HBO adaptation, the influence over other developers, the emotional impact it left on players, it becomes obvious that The Last of Us was never just another PS3 exclusive. It became a landmark moment for the gaming industry. It proved that games could deliver stories just as emotionally as powerful as the film or television, while still using gameplay itself to deepen that experience. And over a decade later, people are still talking about Joel and Ellie's journey for one simple reason. The Last of Us didn't just entertain players, it stayed with them. So when I was about 15 or 16 years old, there was this game store in my hometown called Game World. And there was this guy working there who would always talk to me about video games whenever I came in. Once he found out I owned a PS3, he started recommending different titles to me. Out of his mouth, word for word, he said, The Last of Us is single-handedly the greatest PS3 game ever made. At the time, I honestly didn't believe him. And truthfully, it didn't matter anyway because I barely had money back then, so it was going to be a while before I even could touch the game. But eventually, my brother started working at his first real job, and one day he surprised me and bought a copy of the game. And honestly, thanks to my brother, I never forgot it, so thank you. When I finally got the game, I went into it completely blind. And honestly, back then that was normal. Nowadays, it feels impossible to avoid spoilers, thumbnails, leaks, or people posting endings online before a game even launches. But back then, I truly experienced this game fresh, and within the first 30 minutes of the game, I was already hooked emotionally. I got lost in this world. I also died a lot too, and honestly, that's just classic Naughty Dog. The games never hold your hand. But as a teenager, playing through the story, by the time I reached the ending, I realized something important. I didn't just play a game, I experienced a journey. Now, being honest, this game was long as hell, and after beating it, I honestly couldn't stomach another full playthrough for years. My original PS3 copy literally has one trophy on it for simply finishing the game. But now I'm older. I went back and I replayed it again through The Last of Us Part 1 on the PS5, and my gosh, I remember exactly why people love this game so much. Everything still holds up. What's very interesting is how this game transcended gaming itself. My father, who is nowhere near a gamer, absolutely loved season 1 of the TV show. And while watching the show with them, all I could think about were the moments from the game. The music, the tension, Joel and Ellie conversations, the emotional weight behind certain scenes, and honestly, that's what makes this game so special. The Last of Us stays with you. Hours later, days later, weeks later, you keep thinking about it. Then when you replay it, you realize the gameplay, the atmosphere, and storytelling almost become addictive because of how immersive the world feels. Personally, I truly believe games are art. From Pac-Man to Metal Gear Solid to almost anything Naughty Dog creates, gaming has evolved far beyond simple entertainment, and The Last of Us is one of the strongest examples of why video games deserve to be preserved as an art form for future generations. Honestly, maybe outside of GTA 5, I can't think of many 2013 games that still maintain this level of relevance and longevity today. So if you somehow made it to this personal reflection and never played The Last of Us before, honestly, what are you waiting for? The remake is on Windows now, and if you own PlayStation Plus as of right now, the game is free. So if you get the opportunity, experience it for yourself. Understand the emotion, the atmosphere, the raw power behind why The Last of Us is truly one of the most timeless games ever made. If you made it to the end of this video, first I want to say thank you and also apologize for being so late for this video. I've been going through a lot of job interviews recently, trying to get my big boy job. YouTube was actually helping me throughout this journey. And I want to say I'm probably going to go back to a bi-weekly schedule. I was trying to do the weekly schedule South Park thing, but it's a lot. You're playing the game, then you have to edit your audio, then you have to edit the video, and then doing that in 7 days, it was pretty taxing. You can even look in the past and see I've done it a lot. So I'm thinking about going back to a bi-weekly system, and in doing so, my videos will be more high quality for you all. But I want to say thank you for making it to the end of this video. Potentially in 2 weeks, we will be dropping the last video of our Naughty Dog Takeover for now, which will be Uncharted 4, A Thief's End. And by the end of this year, like I promised, A Lost Legacy will be dropping, as well as Last of Us Part 2. So if you want to stay into the loop, if you want to stay up to date on all my latest uploads, I encourage you to hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, dropping a like really helps in the YouTube algorithm. Hype the video as well if you're on the phone. And if you're feeling generous, you can always buy me a cup of coffee. The link is in the description. With that said, this is the Retro Phantom, signing out.